Let the bass kick.
Hello, Bobby.
Hello, Bobby.
I love those movies. It's like,
British people
you
are
guys
just so
see
much
that
fun.
new movie, Pirates of the Caribbean?
What up? What up? What up? Yo, yo, yo. What up? Welcome back to Last Cash. I'm Will.
I'm Jay.
That's Jay.
How you doing over there, Will?
Doing all right, Jay. How are you?
Good.
Yeah?
There's a lot of usage of first names.
Jay.
Will.
How are you doing this week,
Whoa.
Jay? What have you been up to, man?
Oh, workity work, and trying to adult as
Yeah.
best I can. You know how that goes.
Yep. It's hard to adulting sometimes.
Nobody wrote a book on it, I don't think.
No, they sure didn't.
Well, if they did, I haven't read it.
I
Man,
mean, you have to kind of read a lot of books and pick out bits and pieces.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think there's a lot of good books out there that can point you in some good directions or give you some good ideas.
It's all just trial and error at the end of the day, though.
I can't tell you how much I wonder, like, man, were your parents just faking this at this point in time? You're looking at them like, where did this come from? Because at this point in time, I'm going through the same situation or close to, and I can't help but think that they had to have faked this.
Yeah, man. I just remember my parents and all the adults in the room always being seeming like they were so like in control and had all their stuff together.
Yeah.
But now looking back on it, it's probably they were putting on a good show. Anyway, yeah, as you can see, guys, we have nobody here with us tonight. Nobody's keeping us on the straight and narrow. No voice of reason here with us tonight. Marcus and Dr. Hoy are both working. Marcus may pop in at some point if he comes home. He might be covered in paint and spackle.
But hey,
he's been painting. I do want to say, first item of business, congratulations to Mr. Marcus Rogers.
yes.
He just popped the question to his lady Maggie,
Yep.
and she said yes, and they are getting hitched.
Hey, man, congrats.
Congratulations are in order to the burgeoning Rogers family.
Yes. I'm super excited for that one.
Yeah, man, that's super exciting.
Long overdue.
Yeah. So it's going to be awesome to see us and what funny stuff and hijinks we get into at Marcus's wedding, like we did at yours.
Yeah.
Get
to be on the other end of it now.
Yeah. But yeah, so congratulations to Marcus. Hopefully he'll join us at some point tonight. But if not, we reached out to you guys, the listeners of the show, to see what we should talk about tonight, and we got some gold.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, definitely some stuff worth talking about.
Real quick, I don't want to jump into anything real fast. I want to make a PSA, public service announcement for everybody out there.
Yeah.
About the Bud Hill incident. Everybody that I posted on the Nashville Disc Golf page, if everybody saw that, about Mr. Danny's disc and cart being stolen off of his property. So if anybody read that post, contact Jonathan J. Ray or contact us. No questions asked. If anybody has any information leading to the whereabouts of that stuff.
Yeah, and in the first place that stuff would show up, if it does show up, is going to be for sale on probably on the Facebook markets and on the internet. So
keep your eyes peeled.
all the discs have DDD in capital letters written on them, and that's for Mr. Danny Daniels at Bud Hill. So very unfortunate. Mr. Danny's disc golf cart and his all of his discs got stolen from the clubhouse up there. Really sad to see stuff like that happen, man. I mean, that's just super disappointing. You hope for better from our community, and I don't know, man. I have a really hard time believing that it could even be somebody that's really a part of our community.
Makes you wonder.
I mean, but stuff surprises me all the time, man.
Mm-hmm.
People have a way of surprising you.
That they do. Nonetheless.
Yeah, so if you
have the information, let us know.
Yeah, if you see any of that stuff, a disc golf cart and some discs with D's on them, holler at your boy J. Ray.
Yep.
Because he just wants to get Mr. Danny's disc back. He's not worried about blowing you up on the internet and making everybody hate you. We just are trying to help get Mr. Danny's disc back.
Absolutely.
So, unfortunate news to start the show out with, but hey, that kind of stuff happens from time to time. It's unfortunate to see, so don't be that guy. Or girl, I guess.
Yeah.
I have an even harder time seeing a girl doing it.
I think it was maybe somebody who...
Is that sexist? Am I going to get us canceled?
No, I don't think it was sexist. I think it's just, guys seem to be the ones who do those type of things. I'm not saying that women can't, but it's just one of those things that.
Well, it is kind of a dumb thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And women seem to be smarter than us.
Yeah, usually. If I'm kind of up in the air about it, I usually go with my wife's gut instinct.
Same here. I will not argue that.
Yeah. So, we don't really need to dwell on that, I guess.
No, I wasn't trying to. Just wanted to make sure it was out there.
Yeah, for sure. We just had the Ambassador Cup was on Saturday, and congratulations to Justin Bonnell, Mikey Herod, Dr. John Williams, and Dallas Randolph.
Yep.
And because their team won the Ambassador Cup by 4 strokes.
That's awesome. I saw the pictures. I wasn't able to make it out there, but congrats to those guys.
It's a really cool format. I'd like to see. I was talking to Justin about it today. We had talked about having Justin on the podcast tonight, and he had some stuff come up. But we were talking about just what a cool format it is, and how it would be awesome to see more team challenge or team format type stuff.
Oh yeah,
in the area. And kind of like what we saw with Andrew's tournament that he ran, the Battle of Nashville or Battle of Music City.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's something worth pursuing. I think that's just a really cool, fun tournament, and I'm glad that we got to have it this year. I think Dr. John and Lance ran it, so shout out to those guys out at White House.
Yes, sir.
And it was a good time was had by all, it appeared. And then on Sunday, just yesterday, we had the Candy Cane Ridge Classic.
Yes.
And I think that was
the inaugural.
Yeah, the very first one, and that was, I think, Shantae was running that.
I believe so as well.
I know Robert was probably involved. Robert Zavala and Ruthie was probably also involved in that. I know Ruthie was there, and she sponsored a hole and decorated and stuff, and did a bang-up job. I'll probably throw up a couple pictures that she sent to me of it during the break, but yeah, really cool format. It was, again, like the Halloween event that they had out there. They had it was really kid-friendly. And I know several of the members of our community brought their kids out to play, and
That's awesome.
There were people out there giving out candy and all sorts of stuff. So awesome to see that kind of stuff happening. It looked like that was another successful event. Turtle, once again, was in town to play that one.
Awesome.
The Turtle clan was in town. Turtle Power. Shout out to the Belknap family.
Absolutely.
Love those guys. Yeah, so that was pretty much what went on this weekend. I have been hanging out a lot with Scott Stokely.
I've heard this.
Yeah.
You've become buddies.
It's becoming unhealthy. We're spending an unhealthy amount of time around each other.
Well, is that good? Because that may help the golf game.
Well, I haven't been. I mean, I've played with him a couple times, but I haven't gotten the lesson yet. Dr. Hoy's been out for a couple lessons with him.
He was telling me about that.
Yeah.
He's got some information he's going to pass along, I hope.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll be able to get out on the course at Ogwood with Scott at some point before he leaves. We're recording. The news is out now. I don't have to keep it secret anymore. We're recording his audiobook, Scott Stokely Growing Up Disc Golf, that came out last Christmas, right around Christmas last year. We're recording the audiobook version of that here in our podcast studio in the Sapphire Lounge.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is super cool. It's super cool that it's happening here. It's I got to say, it's a super interesting experience, and I've talked about it a lot on the podcast, but Scott's book is awesome. I mean, it's a really fun read, and it's full of awesome history about disc golf, about the beginnings of our sport and all that stuff. So definitely worth checking out that book if you haven't yet, and also coming soon, the audiobook. So
I'm looking forward to that.
It's the book is a total of 39 chapters. We've got 28 recorded.
So I'm making progress.
Yeah,
Super excited.
we found that if we can get together during the week between 5 and 8, then we can usually get 4 chapters knocked out.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, 4 and 8 to 9. It's like, it seems like every chapter takes about a half hour to record, and the chapters listening time, they're anywhere from like 10 to 20 minutes or somewhere around there.
Sounds about average for most audiobooks. Yes, the Podio book. It's the new and upcoming
The potty
trend.
mouth book.
Yes.
There is a little bit of potty language in that book.
I could only imagine.
Yeah, Scott, man, he's lived a life, and he's a very interesting person. I will say he's a very generous and thoughtful person. He's really thrown himself into helping us with our project at Ogwood, and this is something that we've talked about. We've mentioned a little bit here and there, kind of skirted around it, but everybody's pretty aware of it. We've had Philip on, and he's talked about the problems we've had with the neighbor.
Out at Ogwood, yes.
And which led to calls to the Zoning and Planning Commission out there, and the commission actually requiring him to. It's a zoning variance. It's an entire site plan that he has to complete, and he had surveyors out there to get like accurate readings of the property lines and all of that stuff. There's a bunch of different items on this list of stuff that he has to complete. He has to have a paved parking area, and he also has to have handicapped accessible restrooms and a bunch of different stuff. But the first item of business is erecting some sort of a barrier along that property line with that neighbor along the side of hole 5. So that we can bring hole 5 back into play. Because if the listeners aren't aware, if you haven't played Ogwood in the last year, 5 has not been playable because it plays right alongside that fence. And so it's just way too common that discs go over the fence right there, and that's one of the neighbor's triggers. So we've been playing a little temporary hole out at the front of the property we call Tom's Corner, hole 3A or 3B, whatever you want to call it, so that we can make an even 18. That's been the general thing, but we have been looking into the best materials and how to really design this fence, and Philip's got a pretty good idea on it. A bunch of people have stepped up with equipment and experience to help. Sean Googe hit us up. He's got 25 years of fencing experience. He wants to help. Kyle Goddard reached out to me today to mention that he had a big 60cc auger that we can use when we actually go to build the fence. Sure. So shout out to those guys for offering their help. But Scott and I were on the phone a week ago or something, and I called him to ask, mention something else, and it was his idea. He wanted to do something to raise some money for Ogwood so that Philip could have some help to get that fence put up, and he was offering to do a clinic, like charge $10 a head or something like that, and we got to talking, and I was like, well, what if we put a round together? I'm pretty sure I can get some trophies thrown together, and then we do a trophy only fundraiser. People will come out of the woodwork to help that cause. And I also said on Facebook when I announced it that trophy only round of 18, $25 entry, and you get a clinic with Scott Stokely, a 1-hour clinic with Scott Stokely. So that's going on this coming Sunday, December 20th, and all the information is available on Facebook. The flyer is all there. We're going to do 10:30 to 11 signups, I believe. And then the clinic will go from 11 to 12, and then we will do a round of 18 starting at 12:30. So $25 entry, and you're all in. We're going to have CTPs. We're going to have a raffle. Awesome. A bunch of stuff has been donated already. I want to say thanks to Aaron Dempton out in Jackson for donating some stuff I already received in the mail. Donnie Bannister donated 3 $20 or $25 gift cards to Black Monocle Disc website.
Awesome.
Throw in Plastic donated a disc and a $15 off credit to their website as well.
Very cool.
So a bunch of stuff, and a bunch of people have donated money, and I won't even start mentioning people because I'll forget. Nashville Disc Golf Store has shown support already, and people have already said they're coming from all over the place to play. So thank you to Scott for offering to help with that, and thank you to everybody that has stepped up to show support for Ogwood so we can get hole 5 back. Of course, this really isn't the same without hole 5.
No, it's not. Get with me after the show too, and I'll get with you on maybe something out of the old collector bin for you too for the raffle.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Yeah,
sure.
I will say thank you to Ryan Tracy. He's I think he's donating one of the Royal box.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's going to donate the first Royal box.
That's cool
for the raffle. So be prepared to come and buy some raffle tickets. That's another way you can help. If you want to just make a donation, if you don't plan on being at the tournament or you can't make it, you can just holler at me. I'm taking PayPal donations on Philip's behalf, and I'm going to write him a check day of the tournament.
Awesome.
So, December 20th. Stay tuned for that. Also, I want Justin Morris, one of our fans on the podcast.
Absolutely. Shout out to Justin.
In the group page and stuff. He's always real active on our posts. We're a big fan of yours too, buddy. Thanks for following the show. Yeah. There's not very many of you guys that really go hard for us. Yeah, we definitely appreciate it. Keep it up. And good time to mention too that I'm looking at some different ways that we can create some more interactivity with you guys that are following the show and get more of an idea of what you'd like to see, what kind of content we can come up with that you guys think would be valuable. But yeah, until that point, just know that we're paying attention when you guys post stuff in the group and when you're active in it and stuff. And
Keep an eye out
we
for
try to do the live stuff a little bit, but the Wi-Fi always made that really difficult.
Yes,
very
difficult.
And it was really low quality in the stream and stuff. So that's all neither here nor there. But we're looking at creating a Slack group or some kind of thing that we can have where everybody can be talking to each other about different disc golf topics, and we can gauge more of what you're interested in and what kind of guests we can chase down and what kind of stuff we can talk about on the show.
Yeah, and get some ideas of who you guys want to hear from.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's, the whole point of the show is, well, one of the points of the show is to have a conversation with somebody that you guys think is interesting, that you would want to have a conversation with. And so we kind of try to have that conversation for you and present it to you. Totally.
We hope that we do the best we can with that.
Yeah. I always forget that I have to control the camera angles. I had it on my beautiful face for a long time there.
It's fine.
Jay's here,
it's
I promise.
Fine. Yeah, I'm here. You can still hear me.
But yeah, shout out to Justin and him and Jason Miller. I don't know how much Justin's involved, but the Broken Still private disc golf course, they're hosting a fundraiser event for Ogwood as well on January 16th. It's Bring Your Own Partner Doubles.
Where is this at?
Broken Still, let me see.
I was going to say, I've not heard of this course. The Awkward Silence.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they're actually located. It's in one of the outlying areas of the Nashville area.
Okay.
I haven't made it out there to play yet. I keep getting invited to a bunch of these really cool private courses, and I never get to go.
It's very hard. It's very hard.
But I'm going to be making those trips in 2021, baby.
There we go.
My plate got a little less full.
Just, we touched on this topic, the vaccine, and I want to ask you a question about that now that Tennessee has that. Will you have to be vaccinated because you're around Vanderbilt? Will you be considered one of those people who's got to get a first round? I was just curious for myself. I know who Dr. Hoy will probably be.
Yeah, Dr. Hoy would definitely be. He's one of the people that is right there on the front lines and interacting with patients that may actually have the virus. So people in Dr. Hoy, who's a medical doctor, that kind of medical personnel will definitely be, I would imagine, be required to get vaccinated right away. I'm a tradesman. I work for a contractor. So most of the guys that work in my company, that work for my company, rarely go into a patient room.
Okay.
But one of the things I do is I work on the TV systems. So I do go into the patient rooms. But I'm not required to go into the COVID units and stuff like that and go into rooms.
I just didn't know if they would want you to be vaccinated since you're there as well.
I imagine at some point it will get to where the Vanderbilt folks are going to ask us to be vaccinated. I imagine it could get to that point because they push vaccines. They have the big Flulapalooza there, and don't make everybody, but they have a big tent where you can go through and get your flu shot. And they make it like, they hype it up and try to see how many people they can get to get their flu shot taken there.
Sure, we do the same at Costco.
Yeah. So
and then the other one, the guys, the new disc golf game. I believe the newest version just went live a week ago. I was going to touch on that just to kind of throw that back at it if you got the info on it.
Yeah, good. Good. I don't know exactly when it dropped.
I think it was a week and a half ago.
Roughly, yeah. But a guest that we recently had on the podcast, Joshua Johnson from Tree Industries, we had him on to talk about the video game they're developing, Ultimate Disc Golf. And it's been in alpha for a long time. Is it still? Did the beta release? Or
I want to say it's the beta.
Yeah, let me see
because
here.
It was the newest update and the newest everything. I want to say the beta version dropped.
Let's see.
Let's look that up. Get the fact check. Go all Alex Jones on you.
Yeah.
Start dropping mad crazy sentences. Hey, Will, I see your Facebook there.
Yeah, man. Let's see here. Pull up the old Facebooks. Get the truth.
Version.
Okay, it doesn't specify here if it's still in alpha or if it's moved into the beta, but a new version did just release on December 3rd, version 1.0.74.
Okay.
And worth mentioning also because you can see some of our stuff in there. We sponsored the video game. So there is a flag that's got the Last Cash Podcast logo on it. There's also, I want to say...
Oh, there it is right there.
Yeah, let's see here. Boom. There's a flag with the last cash on it.
I believe there's a unlockable article of clothing, I believe, as well.
I don't know. You guys could probably see that on the TV there, but yeah. So December 3rd, the new version of Ultimate Disc Golf dropped, and they included new animations for turbo putts. There's all sorts of new changes that they've made to it. So if you guys haven't checked it out already, then you should head over to Steam for you gamer folks and look up Ultimate Disc Golf.
Yeah.
And get in on that action because they've done a lot of work on it. The newest version is incredibly just smooth and beautiful.
It's got multiplayer mode where you can play across with different people.
Yeah. Have you already been playing it?
I have downloaded it. I have not gotten onto it. I've just kind of looked at all the specs and features. I wanted to play it this afternoon, and Carter was at virtual school, so I was computer was blocked this morning.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Then my mid afternoon naps. They're always really important.
I had the feeling that I woke you up from.
You did.
Yeah.
It was okay though because I'd been asleep about an hour and a half. It's what it is we do family breakfast on Mondays typically.
Yeah.
And we always have a big spread, and Ashley made a huge new breakfast style casserole, which was basically like biscuits, eggs, sausage, and everything cooked together in a pan and then smothered in gravy, and it was heavy and delicious and stuck to my insides. So I was out like a light a couple hours after breakfast.
And didn't have to work today, I guess.
No. Off the old Sunday Mondays.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the Ogwood fundraiser events that we have coming up. Let's see. Yeah, you guys came up with some really good topics for us to talk about tonight. Let's see here. Justin Morris said freestyle. I asked him freestyle frisbee or freestyle rap. He said dealer's choice.
I know nothing of the freestyle rapping game. And the freestyle frisbee game is very, very, very low talent level.
Well, I will say, just to kind of give a little shout to Justin, on the list of people to have on the show, I do have Joel Rogers, who's a local freestyle legend. He was just this year inducted into the Freestyle Players Association Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So, yeah, and he also plays disc golf. He was around for the early days of Nashville disc golf. I've gotten to meet Joel at a couple plays. The first time was at a Music City Open. I want to say it was 2018. But yeah, I'll be reaching out to Joel. So yeah, we'll be talking about some freestyle frisbee. I'm not going to freestyle rap for you tonight. I need Dr. Hoy here to kick a beat for me.
And yeah, this man right here, he ain't doing it.
We got to be in the right zone. We got to be in there. It's a vibe thing.
It is.
So we'll get there.
I can vouch though. I have seen Will go on a tear. He can definitely do it.
Here and there, I dabble. What do you do, Will? This and that.
I just freestyle.
Little
deal.
Little of this, little of that. Jack of all trades. Yeah, and also Lawrence Pastor wants to know, why do men have nipples?
Well, no,
that's an evolutionary thing.
I was just about to say it's a very evolutionary question. I would like to say it's just leftover remnants of a time where maybe, I don't know. Maybe maybe back in the day there was some craziness going on, and like the penguins, and maybe the males did a little bit more babysitting. I don't know. It's a very, very thoughtful and insightful question there, Lawrence, and I don't have an answer for you, buddy. I don't know if anybody does.
I got to thinking about, I couldn't help, but obviously you read that question and you get the notification. You read it and you're like, that's cheeky. That's clever, Lawrence. Yeah. Good job.
But then when you start thinking about it.
But yeah, then of course, I had a little time to think about it, rolled around in my head some, and there's some pretty heavy implications in there. There's some stuff to unpack, especially if you want to get into philosophical debates and creation versus evolution and all that stuff, because what other purpose would there be if we, the only thing I could imagine is that at one point male and female had a much more similar anatomy. Or
that's what I was thinking.
It's like you kind of hinted at, a leftover from a time when we were a more singular organism.
Maybe so.
It's like just one of those things that were shared before the genders kind of separated into two different kinds of organisms. But then either way, you're talking about the existence of nipples on men. When you're talking about purpose of anatomy, anatomical purpose and potential, I guess, destiny.
When you look at it, there's a lot
for your body, for that body part. If that's what we're talking about, then why would God create? There's no use for him for. That's weird stuff that what we're talking about here.
Well, when you first mentioned it to me, the first thing that went in my head is an old saying that Southerners use and my father and grandfather used was worthless as tits on a boar hog. But if you think about it,
That's very Arkansas.
Yeah, it is. When you think about it, there's a lot of mammals out there that have nipples that are kind of pointless. And so the evolutionary question is kind of a good one, although I think it would take a lot of, I don't think it's up there on the scientific research charts at the top of the list to figure that out. But it'd be interesting to know if somebody has done some research on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of heavy just to even think about the fact that by even asking that question and giving any kind of attempt to answer it, you're starting to tread some deep water there.
Absolutely.
You could end up in a heated debate with the right person talking about that.
Sure.
Kind of stuff.
I mean, well, that question also leapfrogs into many other questions if you really think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's one of those roads that you could go down, like just equating a significance to things.
Yeah.
Like, why do we do that? I mean, that's an evolutionary thing, in my opinion, as well.
I mean,
you can
straight
bounce
up,
so many different ways.
If we're doing hot takes, man.
Hot take me, baby.
Okay, because I don't know. I don't want to leave Lawrence hanging, and not actually like give him some kind of a response.
Sure.
Obviously we can talk about the implications of it and what it means to talk about it, and blah 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 blah. But really, I mean, like straight up, we were tadpoles, bro. At one point, we were tadpoles, and we reproduced like asymptomatically or
asexually.
Yeah, there you go. That's the one.
That's what he meant.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we were tadpoles. That was the thing. Like there wasn't at one point there wasn't a male and a female, and we didn't reproduce by physical contact, one with the other. So many people's brains just exploded.
Yeah.
I could not let Scott Stokely see this podcast and give any other response to that. If I was asked that question, why do men have nipples? It's because at one point we were tadpoles and there wasn't boys and girls, bro.
There you have it.
There weren't birds and bees. There was no birds and bees. It was just tadpoles and frogs.
Breeze.
Yeah.
We're just all breezes.
Well, there wasn't even frogs then. It was like tadpoles and water.
Yeah, just soup.
Soup
of microorganisms.
Chunky creative soup.
Yeah, that had just single organisms in it.
Yep.
Now, that could be highly debated as well.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm sure we weren't actually tadpoles, but something like a tadpole.
That's the way I typically lend my hand to believing.
Yeah.
But that, like you said, that question itself, while simple and cheeky and fun, is a very, very open-ended, leading question.
It's a loaded question. Yeah.
A lot of different questions and a lot of different beliefs and what you might personally have as beliefs and scientific beliefs. And so I think Lawrence, because I know Lawrence and I know you know Lawrence, I think he was leading.
Oh yeah,
bit.
For sure.
I think he wanted us to go down a rabbit hole.
I think he was. And I mean, look, I used to work in the church, so I know I know that mainly becomes a hot button issue because of the response that you're going to get from the religious side of the spectrum and the scientific side of the spectrum.
Sure.
So I personally, because I also I'm a fan of science. I think honestly that the boundary, like the wall between science and religion, is not as. I think it's much more porous than people
make it out to be.
Sure. I think the nature of a barrier between the two itself is kind of perceived, and it's subjective to people's opinions and personal feelings and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely.
And I basically what I mean by that is I'm saying that I don't think that science and religion are mutually exclusive. I don't think that you have to believe in one or the other. I think that, and I've had conversations with a lot of people that, and read stuff that was written by a lot of people that were either religious their whole life and then found the value of science, or they were, scientists that worked in scientific fields their whole life, and then at the end of their life they found religion.
Sure.
And somebody in the latter group at one point put it like they felt that their study of science was like the study of the tools that God used to create the universe. So I kind of tend to fall into that group that, like, I don't think you have to believe in one or the other, and I think that most reasonable Christians are kind of willing to entertain, at least willing to entertain that idea. I don't think the church is necessarily. I don't think the literal translation or whatever of biblical text is the hill that the church is dying on these days.
No.
Yeah.
Well said. I think that's a good place to put it, and I think we leave it there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a great place to put it, and it kind of tips its hat to the question and
Good question, Lawrence.
doesn't go too deep and get us in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. No. Hey, you know the whole thing with tadpoles and then frogs and the pot of boiling water and
Oatmeal boiling comes next.
Ooh, yeah. We'll stay out of that soup. But yeah, thanks for the question, Lawrence. That was fun.
Yeah.
Keep it light for a minute. Let's see. Our friend Hamspoon wants to know more about the analytics of when and why the McRib returns.
Whew.
Because McRib is back.
In case you guys didn't know,
Yeah.
my brother tends to always remind me because he knows I hate it and he loves it. So he'll be like, hey, guess what I'm eating? Your favorite sandwich. I'm like, the McRib. Twice a year, I believe it comes back.
Spring and fall.
But the analytics of it is I couldn't even begin to tell you, but I know that they know what they're doing when it comes to marketing strategy. You see it on the long term with like Disney movies and their Disney Vault when they re-release movies every next generation of kids. It's a sales tactic. It comes back. And like you were saying kind of off air when we first talked about it a little bit, and you made a great point, is that my mind just effing went blank. What did you say about it? Basically that people get in an uproar because it goes away and comes back.
Yeah.
And that's very much planned, I feel. And you can elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, people love it because it goes away and it comes back.
Sure.
And I think that goes into a reason why a lot of people like a lot of things, like, the cult following that In-N-Out Burger has and Whataburger has and all that stuff. And especially like with local chains, that if you're from a certain area, you're a diehard for that burger joint. You know what I mean? And people, I think, really love it and aggrandize it because they don't get to have it all the time.
Sure.
And that's very true. I mean, I remember living in Albuquerque when I was when I was a teenager and in that area, and there was Whataburger around, but we didn't always have it. I mean, we would have it every once in a while. It was good. But it wasn't something that we were like, oh, we got to go to Whataburger. We weren't Whataburger super fans, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And same thing with In-N-Out, you know what I mean? It's just like that's good food. I mean, and I agree with a lot of the stances and operations and politics of the company, but I don't know. I mean, like I think the fact that it's only in certain places, and if you happen to go away from those places, it's like you long for it.
Every time I go to Florida, I always go to a Whataburger because that's where predominantly the most of them are, especially around here
in Alabama.
See, I didn't even know that. I've only had it in Florida. So like when I've heard like Whataburger is going to put a couple locations here in Tennessee, all I can think of in my head is that honey butter chicken biscuit. And but it's in a sense that's probably not a market ploy on their behalf. It's probably just growth and branching out into different markets, and because that's a huge risk when you're talking about different states, different markets, because we're a massive country, and if you look at us compared to a lot of other places, we're looking at states in one country, they're looking at countries within a continent.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, just like in any other place, the United States has cultures regionally, and so some things don't work. Like go out west and order sweet tea. It just doesn't work out.
It doesn't exist.
So it's, branching out into different states can be part of that. It may not be a marketing scheme that they just keep it, so when you come here, you're going to learn for it and go for it. I think it's just a lot of it's growth. But the fact that, like you're talking about with the McRib, the fact that they do bring that back and take it away, it's one of those things that's gratifying for people, and they know how to capitalize on that. And, and I guarantee you McDonald's sales and those quarters go up. And if you look at when they bring them back, that's usually at the beginning and an end of a certain quarter, particularly the time of, fall, towards the end of the year, December, where they're about to close out the fiscal year, bump up that bottom line a little bit, with those, oh, hey, it's back. And they'll get a mad rush of sales. Yeah. Kind of like with the Monopoly, when they were doing that back in the day. I don't even know if they do it anymore, do they?
No, there was a big scandal.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Yeah, there was there was at least one or several people that were
faking ticket or faking.
Oh yeah, they were robbing them blind, I guess.
Which is crazy. I mean, if you look at it, when you think about it, it's pretty simple.
I want to say there's like a documentary about the guy that masterminded the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah, the whole McMonopoly scam.
I'm gonna have to get on Netflix and kind of search that out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's something out there, like maybe it was like a docu-series or something, but there was something out there about it.
Not to go away from the topic of why that is and the analytics of the McRib, but we typically talk about different shows we watch, and I just wanted to throw out, I know I've done out some documentaries, but I've been on a little bit of a fiction kick, if you will. And looking at Yellowstone, have you watched that at all?
No.
Wow. It may be by far one of the best made shows I've ever seen, and it's done by the Paramount Channel, so it's movie studio quality.
Huh.
I'm talking every episode's like a 45-minute to an hour long movie. It is that well done. So
And it's just about Yellowstone? Like
no, it's about a ranch, a family on a ranch, and out obviously in Montana, in Yellowstone, close to Yellowstone,
Yeah, okay.
and basically it's about people. It very much walks the line of Indian and kind of what the white people did to the Indians, and it's a very big theme in the show, but it's also about them keeping their ranch and all the people that want to take it, and it's very much a play and a metaphor for industrialization and expansion and massive wealth in the country.
Okay.
If you look at it that way, there's a lot of metaphor into it too. But the show's just great. It's got Kevin Costner and a couple other bigger name people in it. But
Is that on Netflix?
it is on it's on Peacock as far as Comcast, but I believe it's on Netflix too. We
Okay.
just happened to use the voice remote and do it that way. But Peacock, and I believe Peacock right now is a new streaming service brought out, and so I believe it's free for everybody. Just they're trying to build an audience, obviously. And it's got a ton of different shows on there. It's got like all the movies, GoldenEye, all the new 007 or all of the 007.
They got to tell me what makes them different than the 5 other ones, man.
The one that they have right now that they're trying to do, and I love Saved by the Bell growing up. Staple show for me my whole life. The new Saved by the Bell with with Mark Paul
yeah,
Russell
that
and all
did, that was intriguing.
It's on
intriguing.
That's their claim because it's only on Peacock. And
Okay.
I would have to give it a 1 star. I couldn't watch it. It was
Really?
so bad.
Okay, well then thank you for
Yeah.
taking one for the team, bro. Now I don't have to waste my time.
But that's their big claim. That's what the one they're trying to separate themselves with is using that show is the only place you can get it.
I got to say, thank God for whoever's decision it was that decided to bring Cobra Kai to Netflix.
You like it?
Oh, dude. Have you watched it?
I have not. I haven't
Oh
gotten
my
into
God.
it. Actually, it's on our list.
Dude, watch it
Okay.
now. Leave right now. Don't even stay for after the break.
I have to finish Yellowstone. I got 1 season left. We just
Dude,
broke into the
I'm
third.
telling you. Well, you'll have a little bit of time to binge the first 2 seasons because season 3 is coming out in 2021.
Okay.
I'm imagining early in the year.
I'm hoping some other ones like Stranger Things will drop again.
Yeah, I heard something about that too. Robert Englund that played Freddy Krueger
Okay.
in the Nightmare on Elm Street
Yeah,
movies, he's going to be in the new season
Ooh.
of Stranger Things. So
That's
that's
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting
That's
in itself.
exciting. But yeah, dude. Well, what was I just talking about?
You were talking about
Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai. Yeah.
Yeah, it ended on a cliffhanger in season 2, like a bad one.
Oh, so season 3 is dropping soon. Huh?
Yeah. But dude, I'm gonna tell you, it's well made.
Okay.
It's definitely pro production quality, everything you would expect from a Netflix series or something like that. It's the 80s cheese has translated. Like they have brought that over very well. They've done a fine job of bringing that feeling, that campy vibe
All right.
that the 80s movies had.
Okay.
So it feels like you're watching a Karate Kid movie. Is what it feels like. But it also, and I want to say content-wise, production-wise, writing, all that stuff, it definitely feels like an extension of the series. Because I was such a crazy, maniacal fan of martial arts flicks and stuff like that back in the day when I was growing up, that, I mean, I watched all of the Karate Kid movies. Like, they were all my favorite. Like, a lot of people talk shit about a bunch of the Karate Kid movies. Like, the one that had Hilary Swank in it, like the next
girl?
Karate Kid,
Yep.
I think is what the movie was.
I saw that movie.
Yeah, I loved it. A lot of people talked crap about it, and there's been a whole bunch of movies that did not get, that aren't, I don't think, considered a part of the canon by the cult following of the films, the original films. But this definitely does it justice. It feels like a logical, reasonable extension of that story.
Were you
and that
into
universe.
Best of the Best at all?
Oh yes,
I mean, that was
the first 2.
Yeah, those were great for me.
The third one was like,
What's going on here?
why did they even call this that? It's got one of the same people.
Oh,
It was
okay.
just Philip Ree.
Gotcha.
It was just the guy that played Tommy, and it was like him and Gina Gershon, and they were,
It was just bad.
it was a bunch of like fighting like an art. It was like it felt like a Chuck Norris movie. It wasn't a part
A
of
little
the
campy,
series.
was it?
Yeah, it was like barely tied in with like a couple Easter eggs or something. But yeah, the first two were awesome. But yeah, so Cobra Kai, go watch it. I won't give out a whole bunch of spoilers, but it's
No, I'll get
really
on
good.
that. I'll put it on. I'll move it to the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean the one cool thing that I would take away is it's almost a mind bender because it puts you in the position where obviously in the first three movies you think Daniel is the good guy
Yes, I've heard this.
and Johnny's the bad guy, the evil whatever.
Mhm.
But this gets more into Johnny's history and
Okay.
where he was at growing up, and then. I mean, by the time you're into season 2, you're starting to like really
question some
identify
things?
with Johnny, and Daniel is being a little bit of a McAsshole.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
Little
to
role
tie back
reversal?
to the McRib conversation, didn't mean to abandon that. Wanted to say thanks to Hamspoon for that question. But
Sure.
yeah, but yeah. So the McRib is just they know us too well, and they
do.
know how our attention span works. It's also something that, and this will go right in the theme with that attention spans being short.
Sure.
I don't understand why we got to have 15 different streaming services and 7 different like commonly used social media apps and all this stuff, dude. Like, I mean,
I think
and people like I know it's like a thing for old people to use Facebook, and the only reason I use Facebook is mainly because that's where disc golf
the
lives.
same.
But also just the functionality of it. If you're trying to promote something, you can post really any kind of content. It doesn't have to be one. It's not limited by format or medium or characters. It's not limited by any of that. You can share links and videos, and you can create event pages and private groups for teams. It's like it does everything that I need it to do. I don't need to have a Facebook, and I mess around with Instagram, but I don't need a Twitter. I have one that I've never used.
I've never even signed up for Twitter.
I've
never seen the purpose
You
of
got
it.
LinkedIn, Snapchat, you got all of this stuff, and it's.
I think Snapchat was created for affairs.
I
I mean, that's what it
but
seems
it's
like to me.
you see. I mean, everybody's got a Snapchat. Every major company.
I have
like
a Snapchat and I don't even use it. It's like one of those I signed up
there's
for.
there's disc golf happening on Snapchat.
Sure.
And and
Now-
on TikTok.
And I see like the subreddit forums, like you were talking about the new one. What was that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, then you got Reddit. Well, Slack is like, I don't think it's kind of the same thing as Reddit. It's basically you can build a smaller version of that for a more concentrated group of people.
And I've heard of a new uncensored YouTube that's starting to make its way around with people hosting videos and stuff that are more. It's probably more a lot of fake news, but it's a lot. They're not pulling things down for basically what people say. And I've heard of I forget what it's called, but somebody was telling me about it. It's basically it's a free form YouTube for videos. Basically because YouTube has kind of gone to a censored thing.
What's it called? Pornhub?
No. It's definitely not Pornhub. I don't. That's that.
Peep Show?
I'm not gonna knock that.
Peepshow.net.
There's a very interesting documentary about the lady who does subtitles for Pornhub.
Are they just going to cut to the chase and call it boobsandkittens.com?
I mean, pretty much.
Yeah. Because that's all it's going to be.
But anyway, so I see some.
Do we really need another uncensored YouTube?
I think there's a.
We
forum.
already have Vimeo. Vimeo is uncensored.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
See, I've not even heard of Vimeo. I'm not super into this, like you said, the social stuff or anything like that, and it's kind of a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit before that, I guess, in a sense, as far as my age.
You can find all sorts of stuff on Vimeo. I mean, like, for instance, there's a guy named Danny McCaskill that rides, he's like a really famous mountain bicyclist, mountain biker or whatever. I don't do that stuff, but shout out to Bobby Brown and John Macbeth. But this guy, Danny McCaskill, did this video of him mountain biking on these knife edge ridges
I've seen those.
on the island that my family came from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can find stuff like that. You can also find boobies. You can find all sorts of stuff on Vimeo. It's all on there. They allow it.
You want to know something?
I don't. It's just like, I don't know. It's always disappointing when people buy into all this stuff, and then it's like you also now PayPal, Cash App, Venmo.
Well, and they're
You gotta
owned
have
by
them
the
all.
same entity. Most of them.
Yeah.
I mean, PayPal owns Venmo. Like, but I literally, and this is not a knock on my landlord or anything like that, but like, I had to pay him Venmo, and the other day my Venmo was acting up, and it wouldn't let me send any money. I was like, "Do you have PayPal?" He's like, "No, I don't." And it's like, it's owned by the same company,
Yeah.
But it didn't make any sense to me. But real quick before we let you go on off again.
Well, I was just going to say the one thing, and this is where we can leave the whole PayPal, Venmo. Why do we got to have so many discussion, we can leave it right here. I just want to say it's gotten to the point now where every time somebody, like if I'm selling a disc or something like that, and somebody's like, "Can I Venmo you or can I Cash App you?" And it's like now I kind of take that as like an attack, trying to get me to switch over to
something else.
Yeah, try to give up my diehard philosophy of we don't need all these damn apps. Can I just give you some money?
I think Cash App probably wouldn't exist without Joe Rogan. Because
oh yeah, for sure,
that thing explodes, and that's good. And he does, there's a lot of charity behind Cash App.
They do some cool stuff, and they work with Bitcoin. I mean, there's something you can do with
now
Cash App.
PayPal, you can buy Bitcoin on PayPal now.
And they have a card, like a debit credit card.
Yep.
Which
I have the PayPal and the Venmo debit
Do you
card.
have cards for those?
Yeah, it makes it easy. Like if you wanted to get your Cash App, you know how it takes or get your cash if somebody sends it to you. It takes a couple of days to transfer to your bank account. With the debit card, you just roll with it, and you can pay for it with anywhere.
Oh, wow.
It makes it easier. That's the only thing I got
have
for
to get one.
But kind of not to, we can definitely leave it there, but it's money. It's all, like you're talking about the streaming services. You got HBO Max and Cinemax that's coming out, and then the Showtime Max, and then you have Discovery
Crackle,
Max. Yeah.
Hulu.
Yeah.
Amazon Prime.
Roku TV. Any smart TV has its own little channel platform now you can go to. It's just money and them testing the waters because of so many successful ones. The problem with it is contractually, they spread it out too thin. So you're looking at this one. If you want to watch this, you have to have this program. And that's, if you look at audiobooks and Audible, they do the same thing. If you want the Harry Potter, you're going to have to go to Audible. If you want Game of Thrones, you're going to audiobooks because they won't carry the other ones. And so it's just like anything else. It's money. Give it 5 years, and half of these streaming services won't exist, and they'll be the main three. The main four, how many ever that there is. That's the way I feel about it. But a lot of it is also, too, I think, the ability to do things on the go through your phone. And a lot of people are dropping cable because of all these streaming services. And, like, cable's suffering because you know how expensive cable is. But you're still, how do you get the internet? It's either cable or AT&T. I think that's where a lot of things are going with the streaming stuff, is because they're trying to get away from some of the cable stuff and those outrageous prices. Where people, it's more a la carte TV. If you will.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that's where cable made their biggest mistake, is not allowing a la carte, if that makes sense. Because you pay for, it's crazy. You get basic cable and you can watch all the crap shows, reality TV shows you want. If you want educational TV, you pay extra for it.
Yeah.
And then that one was where I kind of blew my mind. It was like, wow, you can't get any Discovery good stuff, like besides regular Discovery Channel, can't get any of these extras without paying for them. But I can watch reality TV and crap TV, in my opinion, for free, for basic, or basically the cheapest package.
Yeah.
So it's just a money ploy, I think.
I mean, honestly, and because of different things, I've kind of you get to read a little bit about like periodic snapshots of what ratings are looking like on TV shows.
We got a big snapshot of ours.
But look back at what it was like in the mid-90s. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When Friends was on the air, look, it was like millions of people.
Sure.
Were turning on their TVs and sitting in front of sitting in their living rooms watching Friends and Seinfeld, and like it was like, now you're lucky to get a few 100,000.
It's funny you say that. What was it, Joe Rogan that had somebody on there about and they were talking about TV ratings and how like
that might have been it. No,
10 or 15 years ago, where like you're talking about Friends, they were number one and they were getting, first, these are not the actual numbers, but let's just say 5 million people were tuned in on this Friends show.
Yeah.
Well, like that was number one back then. Well, now like the numbers have shifted. So if you were 100,000, you were number 10 back then. Now at 100,000, you're number 2.
Yeah, right.
Because of how many people don't sit and watch the TV anymore, or they record it. And they said that I watched something on TV, and they literally said that DVR killed the rating system.
Oh yeah,
because so many people DVR stuff now, and they can't
gauge it. There's no
exactly.
Nielsen on that. Yeah, and that's hard to gauge too. But you think about it, what are people still watching on TV? It's just sports. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason people have TV packages anymore, really. Sports.
Same
or
here.
You have people that stay at home and watch, like you said, crap TV, or they like those talk shows, those morning shows and all that
Drama-filled things.
Yeah, just sensationalized. The people that really buy into that stuff. I mean, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody. Like,
no.
I know, like, my wife, she watches stuff that I just can't stand, and she loves it. I mean, 90 Day Fiancé is the big one that I really, that's the hill that I die on. That's my Alamo.
Or what was it, Married at First Sight, or one of those too?
I have not had the misfortune of seeing that one, but I know
One of
like
those
because I'll sit through like most of the stuff that my wife is into. I'll sit through and let her, and I'll just be hanging out with her. And not, I'm not a TV Nazi. I'm not gonna make her watch.
That's what they want to
do,
do, and they hang on, hang out.
right? And that's fine.
That's what we do.
But 90 Day Fiance is where I draw the line, because I literally, like, when that's on the TV, I can't even stand to look at the TV.
It's got to be fake.
It drives, and it's not even whether or not it's fake. It's just the fact that this is what's on TV and people are like spending their time watching this. To me, and I know I'm sounding like a snob and a crazy asshole, but it's like, I just can't stand it, man. I can't. The attitudes, the tones, the sound of it, the ridiculous sensationalized nature of it, I just can't physically and emotionally take it. My wife watches it because it's therapeutic and soothing to her, because it distracts her from whatever she's thinking about. Like, she's working from home. She doesn't have a lot of things. She's, not going out and seeing the antics of other people in real life, but it's still, she's working every day, and that's how she unwinds, is she watches some other people act like fools and laughs at them and whatever. And that's a valid mindset to have. I'm not saying you're any kind of negative thing about anybody that watches that stuff. I just personally can't stand it.
It's all about people's vices, people's crutches.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, when you look at it, when we boil it down to that's what everybody seems to struggle with. That's what everybody seems to, it's crutches that are either detrimental to your health that people struggle with, or crutches in a way that they don't even know they're crutches.
Yeah.
And then I say crutch, and that's a very very powerful word in that sense. Maybe a vice is a little bit better, but it's they're unwind.
Right.
What it boils down to. I will not lie to you. I love a glass of whiskey at the end of the day. Straight up. That's my vice. That's my unwind. When I don't have it, it's not like I need it, but it's like I noticed that I don't have it. You know what I mean? Because it's a routine. It's a habit. It's something that like people do, and it's when you take those things away, that's when people start to get stressed out or bottled up. And then when you look at it, it's nothing that we can't overcome. It's just something that we're so used to or so reliant upon that we don't. When it's not there, it's that. Oh, what do we do? And it's that thought, and then we're putting effort into something else. And then you hate to say it, and I see it, but the internet's made the world kind of lazy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely affected the length of our attention spans at large.
I see it every day with kids, and
we have much less bandwidth these days as a species.
Way less. And I see it with myself. And I grew up in a non-internet world, but just the little bit that you catch, what was the internet? Like, we really got big. Like, I remember being on email, like, at school, like, super early, like, 5th or 6th grade. But that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was boom, high school, 9th, 10th grade, the internet just explodes. And then it's like common for everybody to have a computer in their house, Napster on their thing or LimeWire, and that's where it seemed to start for me. And it was just enough to get in there, but where I see it myself even, where I'm like, oh, wow, how did I just zone out so easily, so quickly? It's a big problem. It's something, and it's one that takes effort to kind of, grab a hold of, acknowledge, and try to work on to be better. And me and you see it because I've seen you get aggravated with me about it, on top of it. Well, it's just like, you have a conversation, you can't hold thought even. Sometimes me and you both do it, and I'm sure that happens a lot more in real life than it does here on the show.
Well, we're also aging. Probably not gracefully, but...
Don't say that.
Well, no, I mean, and then you think about it like this, too, and you as a parent, and I know that you've experienced this with Carter because we talk about it sometimes, but like, he can look you in the eye. There's no other stimulus or stimuli around him. He's right here with you,
and he's not.
And
there.
You explain something to him, and then an hour later, 2 hours later, it's like you were never in a room with him.
Mm-hmm.
I know that happens.
Sure.
And then it's infuriating for us,
absolutely,
to be in a situation like that, because it's like, what else were you doing? Like, when we were having this conversation, because you engaged with me and like you signaled me that you understood what I was transmitting. So, but then you have to think about it too. We live in a world, like our universe, we grew up in our formative years in a time where there was no internet.
Sure.
None of this stuff existed. We lived in the world was such a different place.
Absolutely.
I mean, the way we spent our time was totally different. The way we interacted with people was totally different. Carter and people that are much older than Carter
Yeah.
have grown up in a world where that's the norm,
Mm-hmm.
where that's like what you're expected to do because everybody's doing it. And it's like literally, if you want to interact with people, you have to have all 7 social media apps on your phone and be active on all of them. And you know what I mean? You have to be able to talk to your friends about the TV show that's on this one obscure streaming service
Absolutely.
that not everybody's seen. And, you know, and then we get back to like the thing that we always come back to, that movie, The Social Dilemma, and that everything that it kind of proposed. And I mean, you have to almost have a little bit more grace and patience with a kid these days, because like we find it hard to stretch our bandwidth to the point where we can keep up with the digital world and still be
all the
able to
time.
interact and function efficiently in real life.
Absolutely.
I mean, these kids have got to be stretched even thinner, and they're kids. Like,
And the stress level with that.
and now having to go to school virtually, and the entire universe is like becoming virtual to these
What do
kids.
you think? I could not agree with you more, but I want to kind of extend into that. Why do you think? I feel like personally, why do you think mental health has gotten so big and so important?
Oh yeah,
Because that aspect of it brings so much more anxiety and stress to these kids' lives every day. Like when you talk about us growing up in those formative years without that, I think I'm so thankful we didn't have to. I could not imagine being a teenage at 13, 14 years old and questioning everything as it was, and wondering if questioning everything and worried about all these things was even a good thing or a normal thing, or if I was just, I was on my own doing this, or if everybody did this. I can't imagine that on top of the internet and everything under spotlight, because that's kind of how it is. You're spotlighted to those people you know, and in that outer circle of those people you know. And that's a big deal to people. And like we've talked about many times, is that it opens up all those people who would never open their mouths or never say a word, and it allows them to have that voice where there's no problem because there's no face-to-face contact. You're hidden. You're behind something.
there's no repercussions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean,
You make
the repercussions are different, and there's like
Very-
some perceived sense of anonymity, and so the currency is different. You know what I mean?
The value,
the
the
risk
face
reward
value
is different.
Absolutely.
Like it's a weird way to base. I mean, like,
I love how you tied that in, though. By the way, it was really, really well how you tied that in.
well, thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
a
well
weird
said.
way, because like for us, and I guess this is really a summation. A summarization. Summer breeze makes me feel fine.
Summer breeze. I was thinking of Grease.
I don't know if that I
Drifting
might have
away.
just combined 2 songs or made
May
one up and
have.
put it with another one. But anyway,
Beautiful. You had a good, beautiful song lyric there, Will.
in summation, I guess, for us, the way we communicate and the way we interact with the world and the way we conduct business and all that stuff is supplemented by digital virtual business and technology and activity and stuff like that, and the whole virtual side of life that has come about.
Sure.
But for this youngest generation, or these youngest generations, these newer generations, I mean, that's the basis. That's the baseline of communication, of social interaction.
Isn't that
That's
crazy?
that's not a supplementation. That's where, that's in a very real way where their frame of reference starts in
Yeah.
terms of social interaction.
And when you talk about
And that's scary
when you talk about kids,
to us.
it's terrifying. I look at Adeline, dude. This phone, she knows how to find baby TV on this phone.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, that requires going through a folder, clicking the button, and getting the app started. She's 2 years old, and she'll find it every time as long as the phone's unlocked.
Yep.
It's mind blowing. Like, she hangs up on so many people. Like, she's hung up on you, where she's like, "Bye," and then
Yep.
she hits the button, and then it's like before you realize it, you're like, "Oh crap, I'm not even talking to Will anymore," because she's hit the button. She knows that's what turns the buttons off, and that was not taught. It's just her observation. And when you're talking about, that's what they see all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's constant stimulation. And when you look at kids nowadays, like when that's not
Stimulation.
stimulation
For the audience.
Sorry.
Well, no, it's fine. We can make up words. That's
Yeah,
what we do here.
That's what we do.
It's fine.
It's furiously, bro.
Yeah.
For real and seriously. Furiously.
Seriously.
But we use Carter as an example, and this is my stepchild. I love him more than anything on this planet, just like he's my own son. it's just things that you notice as they grow, and one of those things. that I
Yeah,
noticed with
Carter.
him-
I wasn't meaning.
no.
to say-
He knows,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
usually we talk about it. He loves when we talk about him on the show.
We're a big fan
actually,
of
'cause-
Carter.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm a
but
big
what I've
fan of
noticed with
Carter. We're a
him,
big
when
fan.
there's not that stimulation, he struggles to have the imagination to find certain things to do, and then he questions it, and it's like he's not unintelligent by any means. I mean, the kid's in a magnet school; he's there for a reason because he's very intelligent. But when he's asked questions like, "Oh, what should I do outside?" and it's like you start to wonder. It's like, is this stimulation killing the imagination of people? Because it's like he goes to a fine arts magnet because he draws so well.
Mm-hmm.
And you put an action figure in front of him, he doesn't trace it, he draws it freehand. It's crazy how good he is, and he's 10 years old. But then you tell him to go outside and imagine going to do something without some kind of stimulation, it's not there. He'll ask what he should do. And so you can't help but wonder. It's like it's a great thing, but then it's a very detrimental thing, or is it starting to become that for people?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We just went full circle talking about a McRib, but like some of those questions that are cheeky and fun really open up some doors to some really, really philosophical and logical questioning around here.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Around here, I mean, in the world.
and another way to think about it too is there were a lot of kids back when we were kids that were not good at the outside stuff. They
Sure.
weren't good at basketball. They weren't good at going hiking off
And
through
I
the
don't mean
woods.
like
They weren't
physically. I just
They
meant
weren't
like
into it.
So
No, I know.
You went outside and you imagine like, oh, I had G.I. Joes. I'll go play in the creek with the G.I. Joes
Right.
like it's a river. And you imagine that, and you have this imagination going. And that's where I feel like maybe it's taken away from them. It's like the creativity or the imagination's not there because it's always stimulation that puts those creativity and that imagination there. And
I
then when
think
they're
that it
left on
could
their own-
also. I think that it could also be, and all I was going to say too
Sure.
is that like back then there were a lot of kids where it was like there wasn't anything else to do but go outside and play with
Absolutely.
toys and hopefully hang out with some buddies and
Yeah,
do whatever, mess around outside. But a lot of kids weren't just geared that way. I remember having a lot of kids around, when I was a kid that just
That makes good sense.
they weren't into it. You could just see they didn't like. I could go out and ride bikes. I could go out and, like you said, play with GI Joes in a creek, or just go hike around in the woods for hours with my
Absolutely.
dog or whatever. I was totally into it. It was cool. But really, to be honest, there wasn't a whole lot else to do. I mean, like we had video
Agreed.
games, but they were nothing like the video
No,
games of
no.
today. And so now there's just different outlets, and so a kid isn't forced into situations that are outside of their comfort zone or outside of their
That makes sense.
envelope, their tool bag. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that's something that's hard for us to understand because we just never lived in that world. Now it's like there are different ways to be creative and use your imagination that don't make sense to us.
And so why we have these conversations.
Yeah.
I'm glad this wasn't recorded because, I mean, like you just opened up another perspective for me on that side of things. I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as a way as like, oh, these kids should automatically have that. But that makes sense. It makes 100% sense.
And the kids that weren't into being outside and doing all those like outdoor activities,
We just didn't see them because we were out there and they weren't.
right?
That makes sense.
A lot of times they probably didn't have a whole lot of outlets or means to engage in creativity or engage their imagination in ways that they would light up about.
Sure.
So and now you can have like people form lifelong relationships just from playing video games online with each other.
And
So, but there wasn't that back then. So if that child wanted to have any kind of interaction, they kind of had to force themselves to at least participate in that stuff, even if that wasn't what they would choose to do,
well,
just to try to make friends and have relationships.
agreed, 100%. And that is one of the wonderful things that like social media and the internet has given us.
Yeah.
Because it's just definitely a two-way street. When we talk about some of the negative sides of that, when we talk about the social media is the negative side of interactions on the internet and things like that, there is very much a two-way street there, and it's a catch-22 because without those, you don't have some of the amazing things that it does provide, like the connectivity around the world that we have, like the ability to do business around the world or promote things around the world. We don't have that without some of the negatives.
And again, there's that whole question of, are we really more connected?
Or yeah,
Or is it an illusion? Is it a placebo? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
by appearances, we're more
More
connected,
connected.
but we're more distant from each other than
Than we've
ever in
been.
a lot of ways, than ever in history.
It's very fascinating. We're talking about this now, and it's nice that we are as limited as our education
Yes, I mean,
is
if you
on it.
guys were here to hear disc golf talk, we are going to talk some more disc golf stuff. But
But when
Jay
you
and
look
I
at-
always
yeah,
have
do
these deep
this.
conversations off the air, and then we always walk away thinking, God, we have to have another podcast. But we also rarely get to do this, just me and you.
That's very true.
And so here's an opportunity for us to just go off the rails, go down the rabbit hole, see where it leads. I'm out of coffee. That's a bad sign.
Now it's a good time for a break. I got to use the restroom. You want to break it up and do the old white noise.
Yeah, we do have a couple more listener suggestion things to talk about after the break. The one thing that I'll end
Don't
this
kill
with.
us for our opinions, by the way.
Yeah. These may not even actually be our opinions. We don't know what we think. We're just talking.
We're just talking.
The last thing I'll say to end this. Ryan Shillette, shout out to Ryan, asked, did Adam and Eve have belly buttons or not? And I think if we were to have a conversation about the answer to that question, it would probably sound a lot like the conversation about the nipples.
Very close. Very
Man,
close.
if that was a soundbite, if you could pull so many,
clip
just,
it, clip
so
it.
many just ridiculous sound bites come out of our conversation.
I want somebody to make the animated version of this, like on Rogan.
That would be like, yeah, just splice up clips where it just make it sound totally ludicrous. That'd be great. You guys have a mission.
Yeah, you're out there.
You guys have a mission. Make it happen. But yeah, so it boils down to evolution versus creation, and it boils down to like a philosophical debate. But I do want to say that it's interesting because now in the nature of the show tonight that we are I'm going to make a little padumch. We are contemplating our navels. Now, a lot of people aren't going to understand that reference, but that's
Some got more brown sugar on it than others.
I was a philosophy major, and that's like the whole thing is like you're thinking deep thoughts about nothing. Like is basically what philosophy boils down to. So, I just thought it was an interesting aside.
No,
there's some
it's a
intellectual
very good
types
thought.
out there that'll appreciate that. I'm sure. I hope. But yeah, so I just want to make sure that the people took time to give us suggestions. So I'm making sure I
Yeah,
at
that's
least
awesome.
acknowledge everyone.
And hey, and based on the comic books, then me and Will just kind of freestyling with that type of conversation. If you like that, let us know.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of interesting to us because we've all, like he said, we've talked about a second podcast where we just talk about randomness and our own thoughts. But if that's something that people are interested in, I'd be curious to know or be what y'all guys think about that.
Yeah. It's fun. An
If
opportunity.
not, then we'll never do it again.
Yeah, for sure. So thanks to Justin Bonnell for canceling,
Yeah, man, we love you.
because
We'll get you on next
this is
time.
fun. I'm having fun. I mean, we're gonna have fun when we get Justin on too. But I was looking
Sure.
forward to it. Because Justin's a rad dude, and his team just won the Ambassador Cup, and
And fun is the name of the game on the podcast. We don't do this just because, like, none of us walk in here like, oh man, it's Monday night, we gotta do the podcast. This is fun for us as a general. Like, we enjoy hanging out with one another. So
yeah.
we're gonna do it whether you like it or not. Just
Yeah.
let us know how we can make it better for you.
We do have two other things that we're going to talk about after the break, and I'm just going to tease them real quick because I know it's a 2-hour podcast, so you have a reason to tune into the second hour. Zillin Russell, OG troll number one, suggested that we talk about the rise and fall of second in command of the troll army, Drake Abernathy. So we might get into that a
We can
little
talk
bit after
about
the
that.
break. And Dave Smith, the homie out in Memphis. Shout out to Dave Smith and all the Memphis squad, the Meme and Demons.
Hey, Memphis squad.
Yep.
Is that what
The
you were
whole-
going for?
The Memphis squad.
The
Yeah, the
quads.
Memphis squads. Yep. Shout out to you guys. But Dave Smith said last week's controversial proposal from Austin Hannum concerning drug testing in disc golf.
I want to touch that topic a little bit.
He'd be curious to know how folks feel about it. And I've seen a lot of conversation on this.
Yeah, you've seen more than I have, so we're definitely going to touch on that.
It's been on the Facebook pages. It's been on podcasts. I haven't heard much out of Austin Hannum, although he did post an elaboration of what he meant on his Facebook page. So if you have no idea what we're talking about, we'll get into that after the break.
What episode is it?
Today?
Yeah.
Episode 19, bro.
The episode finale.
Yeah.
Episode 19.
Yep. So
Tune
stay
in.
tuned after the break. We'll be back, guys.
Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah,
He's a little weird.
it came across a little odd.
Macaulay
I
Culkin.
like just like check him out every year just to see how like he ages every year. Cause it's
There was
like,
a couple
Dude,
years
he
where
every
aged
time it's
terribly.
like 5 years. It's like every time you see him, it's like he's aged 5 years or somehow.
Every time.
Yeah.
well, I
Have
mean,
you seen him on Rogan?
there was a number of years there where it was very questionable how he was doing.
Yes.
But
there was.
lately, it seems like he's got his shit together.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah.
I think he did a lot of play work, like Broadway stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what happened. He's kind of disappeared from the movie scene. But yeah, he definitely did not age as well as he did as a kid.
Apropos reference for Christmas time,
Yeah. Die Hard is a Christmas movie, just so everybody knows.
man. Talk about the most heated and most pointless debate ever.
Yeah, this really is.
Yeah, I mean that the only thing worse than that is like the stuff that happens on the disc golf debate group on Facebook.
True that. Or if you would like to have a really fun time, join our neighborhood.
Right.
Neighborhood group on
The Hit
Facebook.
Bellevue group.
Oh, it's awful. It's just
Hey, you guys,
People-
Marcus is back.
yeah.
I made it.
Marcus
he did.
made
Perfect
it.
timing too.
Yeah.
Fresh out of work.
Not. I mean,
Look what he wears to work though. That's sexy.
in addition to being fantastic at a number of things, Marcus has perfect timing.
Yeah.
Immaculate. Showed up right on the break.
I want to also give Marcus a little bit of a golf snap right here,
Congratulations.
Yeah,
we
for
were
the
congratulating you at the
engagement.
beginning of the show.
but also for hold it up right there for everybody can see it.
What am I
Your
holding?
manual. This man is about to take his officials exam, and he is studying up, and that's what you
Is it
should
high
do
enough?
if you're
Okay.
going to be an official, is get on that book and get to reading.
True.
And so
It's
I just
also
want to give you
online.
props on that. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But it's like I've seen so many people take the officials exam and just take it and take it and take it until they pass it. So I'm proud of you for.
I mean, you can
props to
read
you.
that thing frontwards and back and still take
and
it.
still
10
take
times.
it 10 times. It's very weird how they lay out the question.
I just wanted to have the book in my hand when I took it.
No, that's
it says
good.
open book. It says not
Says a lot
necessarily
about you,
open
good sir.
online search engine ready. You know.
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean I'm not saying anything bad about having
No,
the book.
not at
I'm just
all.
saying there's a lot of people that would not take that extra step
Yeah.
to
That's what I'm
actually
talking
have the
about.
book. I mean, granted, when I took it, I had another tab open on my phone where I had the
I
rules
actually had the
open.
book as well. Sitting
Yeah.
in Cloud9's office very first time I took it.
It's a hard test to take, man.
Yeah.
Pressure,
Yeah, it
man.
is.
Just getting
Well, they don't
nervous.
just ask you like a straight up and down question. They
No, it's
they phrase
very
everything
weirdly
situationally.
worded.
They try to put you in a
Mhm.
situation where, like, it's a weird scenario, and
It's
you
like
got to
a
figure out which rule
1 in a
applies and
million
how
situation.
it applies. Yeah.
Player A goes out of bounds, but he also lands in the water.
No, here's one.
Goodness.
And this is from the very first time I ever took it. This is how crazy this question was. So, a girl, and they used it as a female form, a group of girls playing a
Mhm.
hole. One of them misses the mando. There's a mando on the hole. But nobody notices that she misses a mando until after everybody's already holed out. What is the call? How many strokes? Basically, they want to know what's the penalty.
Yeah, it's a misplay. Everybody gets stroked.
So that's okay. No. It's 2 strokes to the person who missed the mando.
Mm-hmm.
1 for missing the mando. 2 for playing.
oh, I thought
from
you
it.
said they all played as though there was no
no,
Mando.
no, just well, only one girl missed it.
Okay.
So kind of worded weirdly. One girl missed the mando. Nobody says anything until after they've all holed out, and then it's the end of it. So what's the call as far as penalty strokes? You get
Mhm.
1 penalty stroke for missing the mando, and a second penalty stroke for playing from a inappropriate lie. So it's a 2-stroke penalty to the girl who missed the mando. But I have yet to play in a round where somebody misses a mando and it's not addressed almost immediately.
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Instead of waiting until
I mean,
nobody
'cause,
knows.
like, at that point, if nobody knows, then nobody knows. But if
Exactly.
after the whole, like, somebody's like, "Oh yeah, you were kind of out of bounds right there," that person was like waiting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
The person was like, "Yeah."
That's the way I look at it too. But it's like that's the way they word the questions on the test, so that you know.
You can also chalk that situation up to poor communication from the tournament
Sure.
staff and also a poorly marked Mando.
but that's how they word those on the question, and
Yeah.
I remember that from the very first time I ever took the test.
Yeah, and I mean, as a tournament director, as a person that's involved in running events, there's no limit to the weird, random situations that you're going to find yourself in. Where
That it
you know,
is.
when the people come running up to you at Tournament Central asking you the most harebrained question you've ever heard, and you got to take 30 seconds to just go,
What?
okay, say that again. You know what I mean? Like, and then it's the things that you learn to keep your eye out for. Like, that's a very honed skill that tournament directors develop, where you take a look at the course, You identify the things that are going to become an issue so that you can clearly communicate them at the outset of the whole thing. I mean, it's like, because every course has little quirks, like Triple Creek,
Sure.
on 17, you're teeing from out of bounds. You know what I mean? Like, how does that come into play? And how, or not even that, but how could it come into
goodness.
play?
Or 18 out of
How many times have we argued about that one?
Right. And then, and argued about it with our.
No, 18. It's 18, right?
17, you are team from OB, technically.
17, yeah. 17 is the one where you're
Elevated
backed
basket.
up on the other side of the
sidewalk.
Yeah, where there's that ditch in front of you and the two trees.
No, that's 16.
Oh, you're right. No, he's right. It's 17. Yeah.
Oh, is
Because
it 17?
It's 17 and 18 proceeds afterwards.
But 18's weird too
18's
because
the
you
same
have the
way,
road,
yeah.
but then you also have the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So that's where everybody gets issues with 18.
You know what I hate about 18?
But
I
that's the
usually
kind of
like,
thing.
I usually try to go for it and end up out of bounds. Like
Always.
off to the right though.
Yeah.
Same, always.
Lord.
Like if you could just get that push with the fade.
Yeah, but it's also, as far as it's weirdly questioned, you learn things that you wouldn't know. I wouldn't know what a hazardous lie is, which is not a penalty, but it's a lie that where you can't safely make a throw, so you're allowed to take relief. Do you know what a hazardous lie could be? Thorns, leaves, mud. So like you watch people play all the time, and they're like, "Oh man, I'm in the mud. I'm gonna slip or something," so I just do a standstill. If you know the rules, you are allowed a relief off of that hazardous lie because you could injure yourself by throwing that shot.
Mm-hmm.
And if your group if your group agrees
Agrees to it.
to that, then you're allowed to take relief without a stroke penalty so you can throw safely. But you watch people all the time throw in thorns, throw in leaves, throw on mud, slip or whatever, but if they know the rules, you're allowed to take relief on that without any type of penalty. And I learned that by taking the test.
Yeah.
Because I got that question wrong because I assumed that by taking a hazardous relief you would be a stroke, but it's not because it's a throw that could potentially cause injury, and that was in the rules. I just missed it, but it was something I learned, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's pretty neat." But how many people do that? Even on the pro tour, like you see people throw some really iffy situations. Like Kevin Jones slips all the time.
That's in my mind. I'm questioning that rule, and in my mind, I'm going, is that?
One of the questions on one of the ones I took in the very beginning. Now that may have changed since then.
That's what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
know.
They change so much every year now. Like,
But that was one of the ones back in the day. It was like, oh, holy crap! If you're on a pile of leaves that are slick and you possibly could slip while you throw this shot, and you can take a relief of a meter, or I think it's actually 3 meters, or was if I read it correctly, in that type of situation. Could be wrong. Please check me on that. But that was the way it was back when I took that test for the first
I don't know
time.
if it's 3 meters.
I want to say that was more than a meter relief. It was more than an OB, a normal OB relief.
I don't feel like looking it up though.
Yeah, I don't either.
So.
But anyway, I'm just saying, like, doing the officials exam goes back,
Real
kind of goes to
responsible
one of those
podcasting.
things as a player that you should do, just so you know the rules. Everybody, like you say, any player that plays any event should be an official. And I know we've had that argument, or not argument, but just all of an agreement and a conversation about it.
I mean, for $10, you may as well.
Mm-hmm.
You already paid anywhere between 60 to 100 to compete in these tournaments already. You're paying to
Sure.
play weekly tournaments, which are more than $10, and you might as well just know everything about what you're doing.
Well, what was the? I know.
Essentially.
Did you renew already?
Oh, I'm actually supposed to do that here in the next couple seconds.
Well, I was just curious what the pro renewal was this year because I know you always do a pro. So I was
I
just
mean, I
curious.
can do it on air.
75 still.
Is it 75 still?
Mhm.
Awesome.
So yeah.
You
Just
have
to
time. I
renew,
think
what's the
technically-
extra $10 when you're paying 75?
I think they extended the deadline to renew until like February because of how everything's gone in 21.
Well, hey, speaking of, do you feel like the vaccine will help us next year walking in, or do you think we're going to be in the same spot? Just throwing that
I
out
think
there.
it'll definitely help get things open and get things moving again. I
Okay.
mean, because that's going to be at least something that municipalities will have to lean on. Let's say if we can make sure that everybody's getting the vaccine, then we can open up these businesses. We can have concerts. We can,
How do they do the little thing where you cough and you say something at the same time? Placebo.
right?
Placebo.
You
I
think?
mean, yeah, I'm saying totally regardless of your stance on the vaccine and the virus and all that stuff. I'm saying just exclusively, all I'm saying is that if the government has that to lean on, then they will be able to open up more businesses and get the economy moving again.
Agreed.
It's one of two things. Either it's going to work or it's a placebo and they're doing what is it called? The mass when you affect everybody.
Yeah, I know what
What
you're
is
talking
it
about. There is a word for it.
Yeah. It's essentially like mass infection, but essentially you're trying to make everyone immune by just giving it to everybody.
Herd immunity.
Herd immunity.
Yep.
Ah, okay.
Yep. Yep.
I've not heard that theory on that one.
Yeah, it's basically
been-
where the human body, the human species develops
Sure.
resistance to it because the entire
Adaptation.
species have encountered it,
Right.
Sure.
And I mean, the way it's going right now, everybody's going to have it before too long,
I
or
mean,
have
it's-
had it.
It's weird. It does seem to, like, as it's gone on,
It's getting
get
closer and
closer and
closer to home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually had friends in the inner circle who've had it. I haven't seen them or been around them, luckily, in those times, and they've taken steps because they work in the medical field, like you're at Vanderbilt, but they're actually, one's an X-ray tech and the other one's a nurse. So they've taken steps, but both of them have had it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like one of those things. It's hard to wrap your head around on how close it actually does get to home.
Yeah, one of the guys I work with, actually, it's two guys because it's a father and son, but the wife/mother tested positive, so they're both at home quarantined,
Wow.
and she works at a daycare, so that's most likely how she got it.
But wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's just it is getting very close to home, and
They just send everybody who catches COVID to South Dakota because ain't shit going on there. You know?
yeah,
So quarantine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
There's a lot
entire
of-
state's always been in quarantine.
Exactly.
Nobody ever comes. Nobody ever leaves.
Nope.
What's
Nope.
going on there?
Although when they get there, it's beautiful. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful country out
yeah,
that
just
way.
really cold most of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phew. Winter-
Basically Canada.
It's weird because we have so many people through the Sot Me Up group,
Yeah.
and then another one through mine is the Subaru group. But people have experienced the snow already in so many different places, and I'm
Mhm.
like, golly, it's like I'm bitching about how cold it is right now, and it's like these motherfuckers got snow 2 inches on the ground, 2 feet on the ground in some places.
I don't know what it is about like being cold. I'd rather see snow and be cold than just be cold by itself.
Exactly.
Like I got up this morning, 6 o'clock, maybe 6:30ish, and went outside. I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be on time." I went outside for like 2 seconds. Like, nope, need that extra 30 minutes. I was supposed to be there at 8:30. We're gonna make it 9:30 today. Hey, I'm on my way to Home Depot. You need anything? Yeah, seriously.
I mean, cold affects us differently.
It was cold
When,
this
when you're not
morning.
used to it, it's very weird. Like
Mm-hmm.
October, we did our honeymoon in Colorado. I was in a hoodie and a beanie for like pretty cold,
Mhm.
and it wasn't that bad there apparently because there was people walking around in short shorts and halter tops and t-shirts and regular shorts. And
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's normal.
you know, it's one of those things that when you're used to it, it's a different story.
Sure.
Yeah, I know. Also, we're not as old as we used to be, Jay.
That's true.
No, I can tell you that from experience.
You got low iron. You need to eat some spinach.
Well, I know that like I moved here from Sholo, Arizona.
Popeye.
So let's say when I was in my early to mid 20s, it would be like low, like it'd be like 3-4 degrees outside or -0 a few degrees, and we would be outside like messing around in the woods, having a bonfire, just hanging out outside.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was cold, but it wasn't like unbearable to us, and that's at like 6,000-7,000 feet elevation. Now I'm 36. And boy, that cold air, it does something different to me now
Well,
than
see,
it
it's
used
when
to.
it's windy too. That's what it really hurts. It's like
Oh,
cold and it's
yeah.
windy. Have you guys ever done the what's it called, the Alaskan plunge or polar bear plunge?
Hell no.
Damn, the
You-
black guy had done it.
You did it?
Yeah, me and my friend, me and Tim left.
Talk, see, we're
Did you do that
See,
Cumberland?
last
no,
last
we-
cash podcast reversing stereotypes.
we were if you know where the diner is
I'm not
on 3rd Avenue, downtown Nashville.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He stays in that high rise right across of it, and they
Okay.
got a pool on top on like the 14th floor, maybe 16th floor, or
That's a
something
big
like that.
thing nowadays.
And yeah, it was snowing, and we were just chilling in his apartment. And we were just like, "Hey, man, you
Now,
want
I've
to hit the
never-
pool?"
I've never done that, but
Yeah.
I have jumped in like apartment complex pool in the winter and then hopped in the hot tub before.
Oh, dude, there was ice in the water. There was definitely like
no,
snow
I've never
everywhere.
done that. No, I've never done that.
I had to psych myself up for like 30 minutes, dude. Like give me shots of like alcohol and like I don't know.
Sure.
Dude, just like okay.
Ever watch those
Nah,
videos
nah,
of people
okay,
like,
no. Okay, we're gonna do it for real.
it's
no,
like watching the people at the bungee jumping? Like when they're up on the ledge, like, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And they get up on the ledge and like, no, this is a terrible idea. And they're
That's
like, you gotta go. You can't go down. You can't go down.
It's
And
like
they're
when you go to the lake with your friends and you're always trying to like jump off the cliff and like you get that one person up there
Yep.
and they're like, jump. You look over the edge, you're like, nah. Is there a lower one we can get to? No, you're already up here.
it's easier to go jump than to go down.
Dude, I tell you, I almost died in the what's it called, Percy Priest Lake?
No way.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I gotta hear this.
So out there, say 10 of my friends from a restaurant, we were all just like having a great time and we're taking Jello shots and drinking and just like jumping off the cliffs or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, man, I can swim pretty well. I'm gonna go jump off the cliff. So I go up there, climb, and I get to the top and jump off. I'm like, cool, that was fun. I want to do it again. So I climb my ass right back up there and jump off, and it's like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna go back to the boat. So I started swimming back to the boat, and it was like as I'm swimming, the boat's like floating away. And I'm like,
no.
oh, I'll catch it. Oh, I'm not gonna catch it. So I look back and I'm like, crap, I'm the same distance from the boat that I was to the to the cliff. And I'm like, okay, so what am I gonna do? So I'm like on my back, flipping over, just trying to find like any kind of way to create buoyancy, my thin ass. And I was like, okay, somebody help me. I need help. And somebody was like, Marcus, hey, will you get that what's it called? The donut? The
Life ring?
The life, yeah, like
Life
lifesaver,
preserver?
lifesaver.
Life
Yeah,
preserver.
it saved my life for real. I'm swimming to that motherfucker like I'm about to die. I feel like I was about to die. So I get to it, and this big ass donut, this big circle, and I put like my arm into it, and it flips me upside down. My feet are in the air, and my face is like fucking face down. I'm like,
Oh, this is not the way I
shit,
want
this
to
is
go.
not supposed to work this way. So long story short, I finally get back to the boat, and I'm like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Fuck
You're
you.
cool.
You're cool because you left me that little lifesaver out there. I like you, man. I'm about to go to sleep. Don't touch me until I get to the dock, okay?
Dude,
And I was out back like 2 weeks later.
somewhat similar story. Swimming across a cove of a lake. Couple dudes, peer pressure, you know how that goes. You gotta swim across the cove. It's not that big. I watched 2 dudes do it in front of me. You get halfway out there and you're like, and it's like on a lake, so you got that pool that man, the in and out, and it just works against you because you're swimming across.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought halfway through I'm like, I'm gonna die, and it's like one of those things where I just was like, all right, just paddle, don't even look, just paddle.
Oh, yeah.
Just by the end of it, I was dog paddling,
Oh, cause
and then like you're dog paddling, and then all of a sudden your knees hit like dirt or rock underneath you, and you're like, how long have I been doing this? And I could have been standing up.
that's perfect, man. Because I took swimming in college, like
Really?
my first semester of college, and water was always super cold. I hated going to that class, but I did learn how to swim like every technique. So I can save people and everything, and I swear.
Ooh.
And during my experience, I tried every technique. I'm like doggy paddling.
Now, tell me
I'm
this then.
backstroking. I'm doing the sideways thing. I'm like doing anything just to stay afloat because I'm tired and drunk.
Is it when you save somebody? I've heard that like when you're saving somebody who's drowning, that they could very potentially, if you don't know what you're doing, drown you.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
that, is
yeah.
that true? Like,
Yeah,
when
you
talk
got to
about-
tell them like straight up, like, hey, be still. Let me do what I'm doing because I'll let you go.
They'll swing
gonna
around.
drown
And,
with
they'll
you.
swing around and hit you.
Oh
and,
yeah, they're flapping their arms everywhere, and like you gotta like put one of your arms around them, and then turn your body kind of like sideways, and do this like sideways pull in the water with this arm, and try to push it back
Yeah.
that way, and you're trying to hold them at the same time to like get both of you guys going in a direction to where
Sure.
you know their weight is not pulling you down, but you actually stand afloat with that person, and that whole time you're like, hey, try to hold your breath a little bit so that way you can create a little more buoyancy because the more air you have in your body, the more
Absolutely.
you know float.
You can float.
You can float,
Yeah,
of course.
sure.
You know, so that's why I tell people like, hey, you know, I'm gonna try to save you.
And having your muscles tensed up makes you sink
Yeah.
easier too.
Yeah. I've heard that too, actually. Like in the car wrecks, if you tense, you're more likely to get hurt than if you're just completely limber and don't know it's coming.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though. 'Cause that's why I wanted to ask when you said you knew how to do that, because I've actually heard that with lifeguards and different people that like trying to save somebody potentially very much put your life in danger because of their reaction.
Yeah, because they end up like elbowing you in the face or something, like busting your nose, and at that point you're like, all right, cool, I'm gonna save myself then. Watch me backstroke bloody all the way back to the doctor.
Do they train that way when you learn to save somebody? Like, hey, don't let yourself drown for
Well, I
them?
took
or
it
is
in high school as far as like an elective or whatever, but I didn't take
Okay.
like the true like lifeguard
Oh,
test
okay. I'm
where
just curious.
you know I actually had to get out and pull somebody in and CPR. the whole thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, my wife knows how to do CPR. She has to do that for her job, and that's a lot because, like, I mean, there's a lot of liability with that. Just taking what they say consider control of a scene is by you administering CPR. You are now liable for that person until EMTs or paramedics show up. So, like, just doing so automatically puts you at risk just to try to save somebody nowadays. It's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, for sure. It's nuts, man. It's nuts.
It is. I mean,
Nuts
talking about
and raisins.
rules and you know, legalizations and regulations and different things. We've had a very interesting week with that, haven't we, Will? With some some topics of some rules and some things that maybe some opinions might want to have for the PDGA and touring pros?
Week or a little bit more, and this is something that has been talked about on Facebook quite a bit and on several different podcasts. Austin Hannum, who everybody's familiar with Austin Hannum, Team Discraft, touring pro, he was doing some disc golf hot takes on his Twitter feed.
Okay.
And one of them was that he suggested that the PDGA should drug test at the top level events. And that he felt that that would be a big step in the right direction for our sport in terms of gaining legitimacy and things of that nature. And his initial statement, the tweet that ended up causing the ruckus, it was very short and straightforward, but it was also, I mean, it was just a few words, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people read a whole lot of stuff into what he
A
said.
little bit more into it than
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
what some should.
I mean, and that's just, I don't know why, but it's the nature of disc golf on the internet is just everybody wants to argue and bitch and moan about everything. And
Naturally.
I mean, for as much as like what the community of disc golf being one of its big draws for me and one of the things I love most about it, I don't think I can name a bigger group of crybabies sometimes. Like, everybody gets real animated over some really menial stuff on Facebook. I mean, that's
I think,
Facebook playing a part in that.
Well, you
social
say that,
media,
and I would agree. Somewhat because we see a lot of that, and like Nashville itself has got some personal experience with that.
yeah,
But I also think that like while we experience it, there's a lot of other groups and realms out there that experience it too.
yeah,
I'm sure.
Well,
Because that's just the nature of people.
and you know Scott Stokely, who we've been spending a lot of time with, and who was on the podcast recently, he was a part of the committee for the Can-Am series, and that was a rule that they voted on whether or not they were going to enforce, because it was a PDGA rule, but a lot of the tournaments weren't enforcing it, and people on the staff and playing it were all partaking of marijuana and all that stuff, and so and they actually voted to enforce the rule, which was historic. I mean, that was unprecedented. And now, I mean, it's an accepted rule. Obviously, people will do anything to get around just about any rule.
Do you think they're actually talking about cannabis though in this situation?
Yeah, I think
Because
he
I've
was.
heard a lot of. Oh, okay, you do. I
Well-
was just curious because I've heard a lot about the study drugs that people use and that was focusing drugs. Like
Well,
the
that's another
Adderall
thing.
and things
That's
like
another
that.
thing too. Yeah.
Well,
I've
my
heard-
thing is like, why would you bring it into a situation now when other sports are actually, continuously adding that they're not going to test for marijuana?
That's why I asked if that was what his point was.
Well, and
was
he later
because-
elaborated on his Facebook page. He said that basically what he was speaking to was self-medicators who abuse drugs in general. Not talking about any kind of prescription that somebody may have or anything like that. It's talking about, and so a lot of things could fall within that canopy. You know what I mean? Not just marijuana, but also you're talking about study drugs, Adderall. It could be a number of
Me
things.
personally, if I was selling discs, I wouldn't mention it. I'm like, hey, this may or may help or hurt my sales.
Yeah.
And I know I was like first in line trying to get one of those zones, but now I'm like,
Well, I mean, you say that as where I've been throwing zones well before people even knew what the zone was. You know what I mean? And I've loved it. So
I lost my last zone at fucking Crockett Park.
Josh Major, he's one of those people. He's been throwing zones as long
Lots
as
of
I
people
have.
are throwing zones these days.
Yeah. But nowadays, like you said, it's a big hype because Macbeth throws them. You know why he throws them? Because they're super overstable putt and approach shot. I mean, discs.
Yeah.
They're more so than any Gator.
That's the same
or-
reason Scott Stokely throws the Berg. They just want consistency from a stable disc. We can throw it one way and you expect not go over 200 feet.
Yeah. And what was he saying? You can't keep a Berg on the shelf
Yeah.
anywhere. They're so popular.
Yeah, and I think it's something you touched on is a part of the thing that people aren't talking about, because we have some of that around here, like you mentioned, and a lot of people, old timers or old school heads, sorry, I didn't mean to play footsie with you, are opposed to the PDGA for that very reason. That they don't feel like the PDGA should be stepping into that area, and it's. And I think people are losing sight of the fact that all he talked about was like doing it at the top level of events, I think, is what he was targeting there. And, I mean, people are arguing back and forth about whether, almost like whether they should or shouldn't. And that's the only topic of discussion on the whole thing. I mean, but nobody's really weighing out what it would look like if we did and why we would be doing it, and the snags in the idea, and what are you really going to accomplish. You know what I mean?
Is there money out there for that? All this testing?
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
and
That's the first thing.
You get people to like come in like 2 weeks early, and you get people to come in like day of. Like, how are you gonna be like, hey, you got to show up to the tournament 6 hours before just so you can get you a drug test in and out.
Here's the other thing about that. Those aren't free.
That's what I said.
And PDGA is technically a non-profit too.
Right. Well, so it's the NFL, so let's bring it up.
Yeah, well.
Right.
So are Christian churches.
5106C with the fudge.
I mean, so that aside.
Yeah.
The point is, like, people have a big problem, like Will was saying, with the PDGA. For one, you're paying dues, and a lot of people say, well, I'm not seeing where those dues go. I pay this much every year. Where's that going? What's that doing? Well, you want to talk about some bitching.
Well, maybe you should run for the board.
Yeah, I was like, you want to talk about some bitching, like, start drug testing. Where do you think that money's coming from?
Right.
It's coming straight from our pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and like, so if you want to make that argument,
right, and then the players are not gonna pay for that.
Sure not, and you can't, and you're not gonna be able to run a full scale like drug test thing. Every player, you're gonna have to do random.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, who is the random gonna predominantly be? It's gonna be the touring pros. And they're going to be like, and you're going to have those ones that I guarantee you who get tested more than others. And it could be very much random, but it could still be, hey, these are the touring pros. We're going to do let's just say for safety's sake, Disc Golf Pro Tour, National Tour, the two big ones.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're going to do at those events. We're going to test at those events, random. Who are at those events every time? The touring pros. So they're going to get, just by numbers fact, they're going to get
a small
scrutinized more so than anybody else. And you're going to have, of course, you're going to have those guys who sign up who are going to get tested randomly, but they're going to get tested once, maybe twice if they play more than one event. But the touring pros, they're going to be the guys who are getting tested more than once. And I can tell you from like random people for jury duty, how many times y'all had jury duty your entire lives?
Once. And
I've had it 4 different times. Randomly. Okay? So random is very much a number system. So, like, when you're talking about random, like, I've had it 4 times. You've had it once. You've had it once?
Never.
I've had it 4 times. Well, that's supposed to be random with your Social Security number, right? I've had state twice and federal twice. State and federal are different, just so you know. Like, I actually had federal or state one time, and then, like, a month later I had federal. And you're not allowed to get them within, like, a certain amount of time. But that only applies to state. So if you have state, you can't get it for 3 years. But federal, you can get, and then you can't get it for another few years. But it's like that random, it hits. If it's a random, chances are it's going to hit again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the touring pros who are playing constantly all the time, those random numbers are going to hit multiple times. So say you take a Paige Pierce, who's probably going to pass a drug test every single time. She's going to get tested 5 out of the 10 times, as where somebody else maybe who doesn't abide by the same morals.
Okay.
Whatever. She may get tested once. You know what I mean? So, like, just by even randomness, is it really fair?
Well, and sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Sorry,
well, I was about to say, because there's
just
just so many tournaments.
Sure.
Like in one weekend, how many random tournaments are there? Like, what, 20?
Sure.
Like every weekend throughout the whole year.
Like, what
Yeah,
tournaments
they would
are
be
you going to test and what tournaments are you not?
I mean, it would be basically every weekend.
It would be every weekend.
And do you want, like,
there's way too many tournaments to go through anything like that.
Even if it was
drug
just
testing
with Pro Tour and National Tour events,
Sure.
even if it was just those, it would be every weekend basically.
Right. And
Absolutely.
you're going to develop a department that's going to hold up, going to keep the statistics on the drug test.
Could you imagine the
pass or
discipline
fail.
committee at the PDGA
God,
if
yeah.
you had that
Yeah.
like going on all the time, or if you required?
I think that'd be like a bad thing for the sport, because it could deter some people from getting into the sport.
Sure. And the other thing, like you were saying, and it's a very, very good point. I think it's very clear that cannabis is not really a performance enhancing.
Well,
drug
the first
by just the majors not testing for it.
yeah. Well,
NBA, MLB, is the NFL on board with that now?
Well, I don't think.
NBA
I mean,
was just
one, it's impossible to gauge whether or not it helps or hinders somebody's ability.
depends on the strain.
Obviously, I think back to you think back to like the what was that movie, Half Baked, where the guy's like the MacGyver, or not the MacGyver guy, but the one that Jon Stewart played, where he was like, "Have you ever owned weed, man?" You know, like he makes everything better. Obviously, a lot of potheads think, "Oh, I play so much better when I'm stoned."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do they
yeah.
really?
No, right.
Do you really?
In their brain perspective, sure.
I mean, maybe, but like we can't begin to gauge that, so we shouldn't even really
Exactly.
say one way or the other. But I think the first snag that logistically comes up is paying for it,
Absolutely.
which one disregard, you know, whether or not, because obviously I think what we were just talking about, there's a lot of people that are PDGA members so that they can play in tournaments that would totally boycott it if the PDGA
Absolutely.
started infringing
Oh, yeah.
on that. And so there would be a significant loss in membership dollars, I think, that the PDGA would experience in that kind of a situation.
Well, who's responsible too to carry out that stuff?
Right. And then how are you diverting that money? How is it being divvied up? Is there another supplemental kind of drive or program that can be bringing in money for this, or is this just coming out of dues? And is it worth spending money on that at this particular time when we're talking about we're in the middle of a pandemic? Would that money not be better spent testing these players for COVID before they play in a competitive event against each other?
And dare I say it,
Or providing
capitalize-
vaccines?
That might be an option.
You know what I mean? Securing vaccines for at least for staff, like the Pro Tour staff that travels around the country, because that's a
sure.
vector.
Or the PDGA
That's a traveling
staff that
vector.
does it.
Yeah, exactly. With like Sean Sinclair and Todd
Sure.
Lyon, you know what I mean? Like, would that not be a better use of our dues
Our
money
funds?
right now? I mean,
I agree.
personally, I think it makes more sense, especially when you consider all the other pros and cons.
Here's
like,
the other thing, and I hate to say it because we're talking about corporations and business and growing things. Using those funds, especially right now in the middle of a massive boom that we didn't foresee coming, why not capitalizing on that? Using those funds to capitalize on this boom that we have just for a little while with vaccines. Let's be real here, people. The growth that disc golf is experiencing is going to continue, but the boom that we just saw is not going to be the same. It's going to slow down a little bit.
well, I mean,
Because the vaccine's going to, okay, now we're safe to go do some more indoor activities. We're safe to go do some things that we, normally we're going to play disc golf. Now we're going to go do this.
well, to finish, like what?
Sorry, I didn't mean
no,
to cut you
is just to finish where my train of thought was going. Marijuana is also close to being federally legal.
Most
And
places.
so a lot of these tournaments are taking places in areas where it is not illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So that creates a little bit of a snag.
Sure.
Like, how do you
Well,
ban something that's legal?
Can I throw this out there too? And this is coming from a place that runs their company. Costco bases their company's rule and handbook and policies off of California labor laws because they're the strictest in the entire country. Okay, well, California's got legalized cannabis. If you get hurt at work and you test positive for cannabis, it doesn't matter even if you're in California because you work for a company that says this is their policy and federally it's illegal, which basically means that banks won't take your money and insurances are not going to back you up because it's still federally illegal. So that's where the problem, like what you're talking about, that issue is even bigger because states, sure, you're fine, state law. But federally, until they say, hey, yes, we're okay with this, insurance isn't going to cover it.
Yep.
And that's a big thing with the PDGA. I mean, like part of your PDGA fee that gets taken out of your payout is for insurance for those events. So like federally, like, and I understand like my company's policy on it. It's like, yeah, if you test positive, like work related, you're not going to get workman's comp because unfortunately you tested positive for this substance, blah, 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 blah. Even though it's legal in your state, the insurance isn't going to cover it because federally it's not legal. And that's where it boils down to. It's those states' rights versus federal rights is a bigger issue. But I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. But what I think I was getting at is like just on a more not on a legal standpoint.
Sorry, I went a little deep with that.
No, it's fine. It's all good topics of conversation. The one thing I would say is like having it banned from events that are taking place in places where it's legal is almost the same as, like you would make an exception for somebody that had a prescription for a medication and that, you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
if somebody tested positive for an opiate and they just had their wisdom teeth taken out and they were on.
Vicodin or whatever.
Yeah. It's like,
Sure.
so would that
Well,
not?
it's the same thing with people who have ADHD. They're going to be on speed.
Yeah. And because as particularly marijuana is a drug that stays in your system for a long time, who's to say if that person is
High at that moment.
you know what I mean? It could have been 3 weeks prior that
Sure.
they ingested some of it. So it's
And the testing that requires too, because I've heard of hair follicle where it can test further back than that. But it's like hair follicle, you could have THC in your system. If you're a girl and you don't cut your hair and you have long hair, you could have THC in your hair from a decade ago.
so it's sticky, and I think the main thing that I wanted to take away from the conversation about this is why he thinks it's a good idea. And I think that basically what I can take away from everything that he said about it is it's mainly pointing towards the effort to gain more legitimacy in the mainstream as a sport. Is that if we were testing our athletes, then that I think, and that speaks to the fact that everybody kind of, it's the elephant in the room that there's a stigma between disc sports and hippie weed smoking culture.
Sure.
And I think honestly that's at this point with where we're at, that's something that's like we think about it and talk about it more than the outside world does. I think when you're seeing it on ESPN2 and you're seeing it on CBS Sports,
talking about that.
You're looking at these people and they look like they're playing a professional sport.
Play,
like let the covers, let the game, let the players it speak for themselves. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we need to keep bringing it up. I don't think anybody else is saying, "Oh yeah, whatever."
Yeah.
I mean, obviously some people are.
Well, just to point that out, the very first I think it was Channel 4 has covered us 2 years in a row for the MCO. Is that correct?
It was Channel 4
Ravenwood
in 2019, and then Channel 2 came out this year. And I don't think they ended up airing anything.
Well, the very first year that you got interviewed, I was standing off to the side listening to the interview, and the guy asked you straight up about that stigma. And it's like, well, you said the national people aren't doing that because I think they're seeing a lot of it. And there's people on those national that do camera work or do work for those companies who probably play disc golf and understand that that's not the way it is anymore, especially professionally.
Yeah.
But locally, you got asked that question.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things is like, how do you even address that when you're not even thinking about that anymore? Like as a TD, myself, as a TD for you, and as a TD that you're coming up, that ain't even on your mind, is it? Like it's not even a thought.
No.
Because it's so, when you're talking about the competitive aspect, it's such a different world.
Yeah.
Than your grassroots aspect. And there is nothing wrong with either aspects, in my opinion. 100%. You'll never hear me say that. But at the same time, like when you got national news and ESPN and CBS who don't even talk about it, but you're still local people. Well, I mean, all it starts is locally. You got to be on those. You have to be there too. You have to kind of address that. It's like, okay, hold on, can we start this over even? Like, and you don't want to be that person that's like when you're getting interviewed for something that's promoting our sport. But at the same time, like it's like you have to almost, as a TD or somebody who's going to be in that spot, like take a second to be like, hey, I can't answer that question. Can you ask me a different one? Because now you're bringing something into it that's not even a thought in this whole process. And I think that's where, in my opinion, where we have to get to, where it's not a thought. Yeah, it's there. Dude, I'll be straight up here with you. I have gotten way drunker, and I'll be straight up here with you, way higher, playing ball golf than I ever have playing disc golf. I care a lot more about doing well at disc golf than I do at doing well at ball golf. But dude, I'll get hammered with you playing ball golf. Like when people ask me to go play, I was like, I'll go play, but I'll just drive around and drink beer. At ball golf, at disc golf, I'm gonna play.
Right.
Like I don't want to drink.
Well, and that points to what I was.
So, but it's there in every sport. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of getting at was, I don't think that drug testing at the top tier events is going to do anything to remove that stigma from the sport. I don't think it's going to do anything to. I mean, I don't see it realistically getting us any kind of traction in terms of gaining more legitimacy in the sport.
100%.
And it's almost like the only other question from the audience that we didn't get to is Dylan Russell's question about talking about the rise and fall of Drake Abernathy. And if I were going to touch on that, the one thing that I would want to say is that you just don't feed the trolls.
Sure.
I mean, if you got an upstart that wants to get some attention and like maybe you even think maybe that it's all jokes and people are taking them too seriously, and maybe I think they're funny jokes. Maybe I think, it's whatever. But bottom line, if you are offended and you don't find it funny and you are lashing out about a troll or a practical joke or somebody on social media that's just trying to make a ruckus, well, you're just going to giving them the attention that they're craving, exactly, and that they're reaching out for. And so then you're just proliferating the trend of trolls. You know what I mean? And it's the same kind of thing here, where if we keep bringing it up and addressing this issue of there being a stigma that weed is just a bunch of potheads, well, then we're just kind of proliferating that stigma, that
It'll
stereotype.
never go away.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, you can't, you don't get rid of something by, I don't know. You don't solve a problem by ignoring it. I get it. It's all really sticky. And bottom line, I don't think it's the PDGA's place to really divert funds and resources, because you think of it as a simple thing, because to you, if you apply for a job and they send you for a drug test, you walk into a place, you pee in a cup, you walk out, you go on about your business. And it seems like a very simple thing.
Right.
But to do drug testing like that at a grand scale, where you're doing it with a lot of people, institutionally, I mean, that costs a lot of money. It takes staff, because not only do you have to pay for the testing, you have to pay for the labs, you have to pay for the staff to actually be there to administer the test. You have to do all that stuff. And I mean, that's a huge undertaking.
Well, I mean, I like the way you just put that, because, you know, he just thinks for, you know, a couple seconds on a Sunday, Saturday, whatever it may be, he can make a statement like that, and just like with the twiddle of a finger, oh yeah, we'll start drug testing. We'll just make this money to come out of nowhere. You know, it's like, no, it takes a lot of work. You know, and it takes a lot of forethought, and he didn't, you know, take the time to think about all the different avenues that we have to go through to.
Well, no, I don't mean to say anything about, and I don't think he was really even. I think he was more trying to generate a discussion about it.
Sure.
And again, I do see the sentiment where he's coming from, is that it's very similar to rules being adhered to selectively. You know what I mean? The rules exist to kind of create a level playing field and an even playing field where everything is even and equal for all the people competing. And whether or not you think it could be enhancing or a detriment to your game, you know, and whether it's weed or it's Adderall or it's whatever, you know.
Do you think that he's seen?
Alcohol is one of those things.
Do you think that he's seen something that he's like really like
Well,
speaking
that's what I
to?
wonder.
He's speaking to someone, because, you know, that could be something he's trying to like say under his breath to somebody else.
And that's another good topic for discussion. I mean,
Because
If people have been attacked, I mean, like, there's memes that go around all the time about pro players and different drugs.
mm-hmm.
All the time.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a couple that come to mind. I'm not going to name drop. I mean,
Same.
I would say that while the point of his post did seem to me to be basically pointed at gaining more legitimacy in the mainstream for our sport, I also did feel like he might have been trying to single out a certain person or a few people.
I guess that leads to my next question for you, Will.
Yeah.
Do you and Jay?
Mhm.
Do you all see anyone that's on the pro field, like visually, that you think, oh man, they must be higher on drugs?
No.
Well,
I never see it. I look it up. I mean,
I know
question
players
would
that have
be-
reputations,
Sure.
but I've never seen any of them face to face where
My-
it's immediately like, oh my God.
My question would be a perspective question, and from people, and I'm going to ask you to, because you're the two in the room, and I'm not implying anything towards either one of you. I'm just saying, do you personally feel that you think that drugs and any type of drug that you're familiar with at all, do you think that those give advantage in any way? Because, like, I've seen,
Yes.
what's the movie Limitless? What is that smart drug? Okay,
Mhm.
does that exist? I don't know, because I've never seen it or experienced it. So if it does, then correct me if I'm wrong here. Do either of you think personally that there's anything out there that does give you an advantage other than like steroids and muscles?
Yeah, absolutely.
I say yes too.
Okay.
I think that for somebody that enjoys smoking marijuana, probably the reason that they enjoy smoking it is that it does something to their consciousness and their mental acuity that they enjoy, that they feel a benefit from.
Okay.
And that could be maybe you get out of your head a little bit. Maybe you're not constantly
Changes the mind
overanalyzing every little thing you're doing in your routine.
Okay.
That could create an advantage for one person. I
Makes
mean,
sense.
obviously it differs from person to person, but then you could also say somebody that's taking Adderall or something like Provigil or something like that, where it's, it's obviously increasing your focus, increasing your attentiveness, increasing your neural activity. that's obviously, you could see why that would be an advantage. People
Sure.
are able to tune in on things a little bit tighter. But bottom line, what I was saying earlier is that it's just like the rules are there to create an even playing field. And I think that that's what Austin was speaking to, is that like he feels like if it's just not a big deal, and because among that circle, I will say that, you know, like we said, people there are reputations, there are rumors that go around about people, but it's like, imagine if you're part of that circle and you're traveling with these same people from event to event to event around the country for all year, and you get to know them, and you know what everybody's doing.
You know what they're doing. Yep.
And there's, you know, it's a tight circle, so everybody kind of tends to not air out each other's laundry. That's kind of an unspoken agreement.
Absolutely, it is.
But at the same time, I could totally see Austin's point and where he's coming from, in like, he's taking it very seriously. He's taking his physical fitness and his athleticism very seriously. He's trying to compete in the sport as a professional athlete. And, you know, and part of being professional and having professionalism in your sport is not overtly, or I guess just
Purposefully.
or willfully ignoring a situation to develop where people are creating an advantage for themselves on the playing field that
Sure.
is going unchecked.
Mark, I want to hear what your thoughts are, because I want to give you,
Because that could be
my
a concern
thoughts
for
afterwards.
yeah.
Go about what my same question. That was a great answer, and a wonderful perspective on that. What are your thoughts on that, Marcus? Because I want to give you mine afterwards.
No, I'm gonna hear yours now.
Okay, well, okay. So coming from that same perspective, where like, as an athlete, I tend to agree with Will.
Yeah.
100%. But I also come from a background where I was medicated. Same thing. ADD. My life. I went from a C, D student. I'm talking first grade, second grade, first, second grade, till 7th grade, where I was a C, D student. Like, didn't give a shit. Like, at all. You know, my mom took me to a place, had me tested. They said I was ADD, blah, 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 blah. Put me on Dexedrine, which is apparently some type of amphetamine, time release type of thing. Night and day. From a CD student to a straight A student. I got the plaque to prove it, like my GPA wise. Now, obviously, that's a massive improvement, so you might think that's a disadvantage. Now, let's say, I don't know if I'm ADD. I think ADD, when they were diagnosing it in the 90s, was like, if your kid wasn't doing this, you're ADD. If you weren't doing this, you're ADD. And it was just thrown out there. You know, I think a little bit more research has been done for sure nowadays. And I'm not one of those people who want to throw kids on medicine, especially after experiences I've had with it. Because while it made me a straight A student, it definitely did a lot of things to some side effects. And I say side effects, and I hate that word, because effects of the drug are the effects. They're just not the desired effects. They call them side effects.
Right.
Regardless. They're the effects. So I hate the word side effect. But some of those things that affected me, I didn't like. Sleeplessness, dry mouth constantly questioning things, and like second guessing myself that I never had before, even though I was still making better grades or doing things differently and better by like performance standards. So like, but was my mindset the same as somebody who's not ADD? If I was truly ADD, walking into it, that Dexedrine made me normal, so they say. So it puts me on, like, if you're not ADD, puts me on your level of normalcy. So is that an advantage, or does that put me to where I'm supposed to be?
Yeah, and
So it's another question when you talk about that, because if somebody's disadvantaged to begin with, and now you're making them to the same level.
So you're saying that he could have been looking at someone that
Well,
was
that-
medicating, and then that couldn't have been. He thought that it couldn't have been from a doctor.
Sure. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's people that like maybe don't need it, who take it, maybe it makes them better. But like from the experiences I've had, like there was a lot of good that came from that, where I changed my grades and did a lot better in school. But there was a lot of second questioning.
but
and
you had a
things like-
prescription. So,
Sure,
I mean, in that scenario, that would disqualify it. I mean, like,
Absolutely,
this is something that wouldn't be.
Who's to say that I was? Who's to say that I was truly ADD? And like I said, it was diagnosed back in the day, where it was just handed out like Well, it was very new.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the
But
gray
like,
area.
so if
Who's to say? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But if you are at a disadvantage to begin with, and now you're taking something that's medically prescribed that makes you on the same playing field, but now your game is better, or you're now playing at a top or a better level than those people that are not on medication. Are you playing at a disadvantage, or are you not? Are you playing technically at the same advantage, but now your skill level is superseding theirs because now you're on the same playing field?
And that would
I'm
almost
just curious.
well, and I mean ultimately, because again, I totally am down with the questions that you're posing here because it's valid considerations. I think ultimately we're trying to get down to the basis of this question for our purposes. So like,
Absolutely.
you know, does it prevent anything from happening? Does it fix any problems that exist within the sport? Does it address the point that I think he was getting at, that it would be a move in the right direction to gain more legitimacy for the sport? I don't think that it does. And then when you think about all these other different kind of gray area scenarios, if a person is misdiagnosed and they're on this medication, and so they have a prescription for it, so they're not going to be in any way affected by a drug testing policy, but their doctor that diagnosed them with something that they didn't have and put them on a medication that they didn't necessarily need, but increases their focus and their attentiveness and their reflexes and that kind of thing, then yeah, I mean, like, how is that addressing anything? That's just more loopholes for the whole scenario to just slip through.
Yeah. Or somebody like myself where I'm like, obviously I think it made me a better student, but was it something that I truly, truly needed?
Right.
I mean, with drugs being as big as they are right now, the PDGA definitely have. I mean, I don't know for sure, but they definitely have thought about this already.
Oh,
I'm sure.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so like even just bringing it up is like, dude, they're a whole organization. Of course, they thought of this already.
Yeah.
You know,
To point out.
To get real Southern about it, it's like trying to strain rice with chicken wire.
Yeah. It's been tried, didn't work. We're going to try it again. I mean, you make a good point. It's like, that's the thing, though. It's like the questions come back over and over again, and I see it in the board with new board members, and I think maybe you saw a little bit at the first board meeting. It's like a lot of the questions and ideas that people have when they walk into something new are fresh and new to them, but maybe they're not fresh and new to people that have been there for a while.
that have been there for a while.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For sure.
Stay off the drugs.
I don't know.
Drugs
Great
are bad.
conversation,
All the hard
great
drugs.
question. Great topic.
Stay
And I
off
think
the
it's an
hard
interesting
drugs.
time for Austin to bring it up because we are at a precipice right now. We're at the beginning of something that could be huge. And like, we're looking at not having COVID and the companies wanting to continue putting our broadcast out there because of what the ratings that we had.
Yeah.
And the interest that was there.
And I'm going to add a little disclaimer here, just because of the way our opinions vary and the nature of discussing something like this, because Austin is kind of the archetype of this discussion simply due to the fact that he tweeted about it and it became a thing.
Sure.
In no way is anything that we said here tonight pointed at Austin, or we're not trying to make assumptions about how he feels or what he thinks. I sent him a message and spoke to him briefly to see if he wanted to jump on a Zoom call and kind of offer his thoughts. Told him we'd love to have him on sometime, so maybe we'll have him on as a guest at some point.
This
We can
is
kind
our
of
take.
get this is just wild, aimless discussion about something that's very, very, very sticky to get into.
Absolutely.
And I want to be clear that we were not directing any of our commentary towards Austin. It's just, he's attached to this thing because of how it became
Absolutely.
the most current topic
But
of
it's
discussion.
not even Austin. Like, this was a conversation
He's
before, and he
definitely
just brought
not
it
the
back
first
up
person to
again.
bring this up. Yeah.
Sure.
And I do understand why he brought it up, coming from where he is. I understand his position and why it would be a concern for him. And I totally can appreciate his sentiment on the topic. And I agree with it for the reasons that he's mentioning it. At least as far as I understand him.
Sure.
So, I mean, yeah, in no way was that any of that about Austin. That's just simply about talking about what it might look like if the PDGA were to implement drug testing.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's a wild suggestion. I don't think it's something that's completely outside of the realm of possibility either. I'm just thinking in terms of realistically, like where we're at right now doesn't
Well,
make sense.
I'm glad when we brought it up, we took the take that you wanted to roll with it. It's not so much about the conversation itself. It's like, what's it look like if you put it into practice?
Yeah. And what do we accomplish?
Sure.
What's the end? What realistically? Let's project our ending. What's our goal?
Yeah.
To get out of the loophole.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does it better the sport as far as media coverage? Because I know a lot of ball golfers out there who don't.
Well, see, that's why
always
it just
play
goes
by
back
the
to what I
rules
said
as
before.
far
You know,
as like that
you
goes.
see people on TV. You just hope that they're
Sure.
presenting themselves as a normal person that's
Yeah.
not on any kind of drugs.
Yeah.
Vice is a good channel out there, just on cable, just for people to know. And the only reason why I say that is because there was a conversation about this in a documentary about steroids, smart drugs, like they're talking about, as they call them on the documentary, and then like beta blockers for musicians, where you don't get nervous like during auditions.
Yeah.
So there's that. When you talk about this spectrum, you're talking about a whole spectrum and a whole world that incumbents and brings into
Encompasses.
encompasses. There we go. There we go. Encompasses a whole different world of anything that involves competitiveness.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a great topic to bring up and a great way to talk about it. But when you look at it, everybody's out there somehow trying to get an edge.
It's interesting too, as often as we're comparing ourselves to golf,
Sure.
that they're not testing for it. And that's
No.
the one place where people, it's like, this is the only thing that I have not heard in an argument about this topic. This is the only topic that I've not heard somebody argue the golf angle.
The golf angle, right?
You know what I mean? It's like we're comparing ourselves to golf and trying to beat golf up until the point where it's
Joe test.
Right.
something
Where
like
people
this. I mean-
who are making like over $100,000 a year playing golf could easily
And they're not
hide
getting-
a couple pills.
Sure.
You know,
And it's
Could be
not
on
a topic
anything.
at all.
slow release anything during
And,
the whole round.
and do they get tested? Do we even know?
You think a cup of clean pee is any harder to buy than a bag of drugs?
No. And there's states you can buy synthetic.
Right. Oh,
You know?
that shows up on tests now.
Yeah, they check it
does it?
out.
They say
I don't
that when we get drug tested at work, they say that
Oh, I don't-
if
yeah.
and they will show you like a bag full of bottles of synthetic urine that they've pulled off of people in that very trailer when they've been given drug tests.
know. Oh, I didn't know that. I've always used real people pee.
Oh, okay. So to take us out, I got a funny story to share about trying
Let's hear it.
to scheme on a drug test. So when I first moved here, me and the two guys that I moved here with had gotten half a duplex, and it just became party central. It was just a bunch. Like my roommates just are social. We're social butterflies, and there was constantly people hanging out. One of the people that was hanging out also, one of my roommates was much younger than me, so there were younger people hanging out at the house.
Sure.
One of them was this kid that was trying to get into the Air Force, I think, and he was about to be going into his recruiter to get drug tested and all that stuff. And he was just over at our house smoking like a chimney. And I kept asking him about it. I'm like, so are you still trying to get into the Air Force? I'm like, you know that you're going to get drug tested, right? And he's like, oh yeah, but it'll be all right. But it'll be all right. I got time. And then it was like, eventually he was talking about like, it's a couple days from now and he's still smoking like a chimney. And I'm like, what are you going to do, man? Like, this doesn't seem practical. And he whips this thing out. He brings it over to the house. I don't know if it was that day, but he brings this thing out. He's got a Whizzinator.
I've heard of those.
So he's like, no, this is what I'm going to do. Because I'm like, you know that like
They watch.
they will watch you piss, right? And he's like, no, I got a Whizzinator. And I'm like, what's a Whizzinator? And he pulls this giant rubber dick out. And it's like, that's the best way I can describe it. And it's like a strap on that you put on under your pants. And when you go to pee, you pull this thing out. And it's got this clasp mechanism at the tip where it's like a certain combination of movements with your fingers. Like there's a lock that you
Yeah.
open, and then there's another part that you activate
Like a
to
trigger?
actually
Like a gun?
squeeze it. Yeah. And it
Oh.
comes with this like bag of powder that you put into water, and they show you, and it has a heating pad for the bladder. So they like show you how to like,
Keep the
you microwave it
temperature right.
10 seconds. Like he showed us all this stuff and talked about it. And I'm like,
Huh.
I don't know, man, but if I'm your recruiter and I'm standing there watching you piss and you whip that thing out of your jeans, I'm going to know something's up. I was like, I don't think this is going to work. He's like, no, it's going to work. And everybody was like gassing him up on it. And then I remember coming home from work one day. I'm pulling down the street, coming up to my house. There's a car I don't recognize out front of the house. And going up the hill from the car to the house is this kid in his boxer shorts and his shirt carrying his jeans in his hand. And he goes up around the house as I'm coming down the hill. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to hear what happened. So I get in there and he's just devastated, red-faced, just mortified. Apparently, when setting up for this operation, he skipped on a part of the instructions or something on how to secure the clasping mechanism. He studied up on how to disengage it.
Yeah.
But apparently he didn't get it secured and closed right, because he's sitting there with his recruiter and hadn't even gotten to the point where he was going to go take a drug test, and the thing opened up, and he basically they thought he just pissed his pants. And then they were like worried about him at first, like, dude, are you okay? Like, what? And he was like, didn't know what to do. And they were like, do you need to see a doctor? Like, because they were legitimately concerned about him.
Yeah, sure.
And it got on, and he was trying to like get away from. He was like, oh no, I don't know. I drank a lot of water and I'm nervous. Well, why are you nervous? And blah, blah, blah. And then he's getting more nervous and paranoid, and then it just kept on and snowballed until eventually he was like,
gave himself up.
He showed him the thing, and his recruiter was like, I can't believe you did that to me.
I mean, yeah, I believe it. That's crazy.
But I mean, that's another thing is, maybe
how far will you go?
Some people maybe you should just study for the test. Maybe you should try to
just
make this into a Broadway production. Because I had a roommate one time. Me and him were trying to get jobs at MCI. I'm aging myself. We're trying to get jobs at MCI selling long distance, and
selling long
I was
distance.
18 at the time, and so I was smoking weed, and we got this like synthetic urine stuff at a head shop.
Sure.
It was in a little squirt bottle. It had a heating pad, and it showed you microwave, mix it up, shake it, microwave it for this long, put the heating pad on it with this rubber band, carry it on you in a discreet place, and then just squirt it into a cup. We go in there, and I didn't have any problems. I ended up getting the job. Well, he went in there and like was trying to squirt. Well, first he microwaved it too much, so he like probably ruined it then. And then he's in there, and he was like going to squirt it, and he dropped the bottle in the toilet. And he had like, then he was like, well, maybe I'll just put a little real pee in it. And he was like, just totally botched the whole thing and didn't get the job, obviously, and ended up getting kicked out of the apartment. But so yeah, study for your tests, I guess, is the moral of the story. It's funny, man, because like Austin Hannum, like,
he brings up a good point, but in theory, like,
this
how
is
practical is
this is what's unfortunate is on my crew. There's a guy that used to work with us. His name is Ernesto, the one Mexican guy on our crew at the time. And now we get drug tested once a year. It's basically like a safety thing because you have to get a construction site pass for your badge. And you basically sit and listen to the construction manager guy ramble on about safety procedures and stuff. And then everybody lines up and takes a drug test. It takes forever. It's not really a big deal for most of the guys. It's just you're just sitting in a trailer trying not to fall asleep for a few hours. But for some people, that's something you study for.
Sure.
But, you know, so those guys worry about it. Now, the passes say you have to get it. The test is like it's only valid up until this date in April, but we would get tested in July, September, October. Sometimes it would just go on and nobody ever asked us about it. And so a bunch of the guys would be just like praying that everybody just forgot about it. Well, and one morning we're all sitting in the shop and Ernesto just pipes up, hey, so because it was like past the date by like 3 days or something on our pass. So when are we going to get our drug test? And it was like you could instantly tell who was smoking weed because
shut the fuck up.
Like a third of the people in the room immediately looked at Ernesto like,
shut up, bro.
Like, and now Austin Hannum just became Ernesto for the entire disc golf game.
Meet me outside.
Everybody's like, dude, shut up.
Make sure you know how it works before you whip it out. Long story short.
There you go. I like that. Anyway.
And that's just the tip with Marcus Rogers, right?
Yeah. There you go.
Man.
Tip of the week. Make sure you know how it works when you're in a doctor's office about to whip out something that's not natural.
You killed me.
I love it.
I think that's a good place to end it.
I like it.
There we go.
Glad you made it, Marcus.
Me too.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you, Jay.
Good to see you guys.
We miss you, Dr. Hoy. Come back to us, but keep saving the world first.
Yep.
We made it through another episode. And we're gonna roll out. Here we go.
Let the bass kick.